Chapter 2659. Lu Ming swept out with his spear. This time, Lu Ming had used the incomplete divine skill and had unleashed the power of the fourth level. 9 levels of strength surged out and clashed with Huang Wu's palm. Boom! There was a loud explosion, and Lu Ming's body retreated rapidly. He took a few steps back, and the ground exploded. As for Huang Wu, he also retreated. They were evenly matched in this exchange. This lad is so powerful. The new disciples were fine as they knew Lu Ming's strength. However, the senior disciples were shocked that Lu Ming had managed to block Huang Wu's attack and had even forced Huang Wu to retreat. Such strength could be said to be astonishing. Most importantly, when they used their spiritual senses to scan the area, they realized that Lu Ming was only a demigod, and they were even more shocked. This lad, Huang Wu's eyes narrowed. He had seen that Lu Ming was only a demigod. Hence, he had not used his full strength in the previous blow. However, given his cultivation, even if he did not use his full strength, he could easily suppress an ordinary level for empty god. However, he had been defeated by Lu Ming in one blow. Lad, you have some strength. However, I have not used my full strength. Now, I will show you who is a senior and who is a newbie, Huang Wu said coldly as his divine power surged out. Bam! His body charged towards Lu Ming, and he slashed out with his palm. A ray of saber radiance shot out from his palm and slashed towards Lu Ming. Huang Wu had used his full strength in this exchange, and he had even used the incomplete divine skill he had cultivated for many years, and had already cultivated the incomplete divine skill to the 5th level. Its power was shocking. Lu Ming squinted his eyes. To be honest, Huang Wu's strength was shocking. The divine power that he controlled was king-grade divine power, and he had cultivated the incomplete divine skill. He was far superior to the rank 5 empty gods in the Jingtian army and Yuan Luo Palace. Lu Ming did not hesitate and activated the battle character manual to double his combat strength. In an instant, Lu Ming's combat strength increased greatly. Boom! Lu Ming's long spear once again collided with Huang Wu. This time, the tremor was even greater and stronger. Their bodies shook violently again, and they retreated continuously. What? He blocked it again. This time, Huang Wu used his full strength, but was blocked. Is that brat still human? This is a demigod? Are you kidding me? The older disciples who were watching in secret were dumbfounded. Even the new disciples who had seen Lu Ming fight during the assessment stared with wide eyes in shock. During the assessment, Lu Ming was not this strong. This was natural. During the test, Lu Ming couldn't use the battle character formula. Now that he could use the battle character formula, its power was naturally stronger. How is this possible? I don't believe it. Huang Wu roared in his heart. His eyes were incomparably ferocious. He once again charged towards Lu Ming. His palms were like sabers. Saber chi crisscrossed, unceasingly chopping towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming formed a long spear with his divine force. Without any fear, he charged towards Huang Wu. At the same time, Lu Ming unleashed his incomplete divine skill to the maximum, activating it to the 6th level as he fought with Huang Wu. In an instant, the two exchanged more than 10 blows. Lu Ming began to gain the upper hand. Demon! What kind of demon is this? The older disciples almost bit off their tongues. A demigod could actually suppress Huang Wu, who was a rank 5 empty god realm martial artist. Moreover, Huang Wu was not an ordinary rank 5 empty god realm martial artist. He was a genius. The 2 young men who followed Huang Wu could not even interfere, as their cultivation ranks were lower than Huang Wu's. Brat, I will destroy you! Huang Wu roared. A war saber appeared in his hand. This war saber was a lower rank 6 divine weapon. With the divine weapon in his hand, his strength surged. Are you the only one who has a divine weapon? Lu Ming said coldly. A long spear appeared in his hand. This long spear was obtained by Lu Ming from the god's cave. It was a lower rank 9 divine weapon. Huang. The long spear vibrated as Huang Wu unleashed his incomplete divine skill. In an instant, 13 levels of strength burst out. Dang! Huang Wu's body shook violently as he retreated. His arm that was holding the saber was in great pain, and it was almost torn apart. Lower rank 9 divine weapon. Huang Wu roared as he stared the long spear in Lu Ming's hand with a burning gaze. A lower rank 9 divine weapon was sold for at least 100,000 divine gems on the market. Lu Ming, a demigod, actually had a lower rank 9 divine weapon. Brat, hand over the divine weapon, and I will let this matter rest. Huang Wu roared. Idiot, you may want to let this matter rest. But I don't want to. Lu Ming said coldly. He unleashed his wing's rock skill and attacked Huang Wu in a flash. Huang Wu was furious and could only try his best to defend himself. Dang! Dang! Now that Lu Ming had taken out the inferior grade 9th tier divine weapon, his combat ability had undoubtedly increased. He had completely suppressed Huang Wu. After a few moves, the saber in Huang Wu's hand flew out. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated hurriedly. Bam! Lu Ming swept his spear across Huang Wu's body. Huang Wu fell to the ground and spat out mouthfuls of blood. His face was filled with shock and anger. Brat, you dare to hurt me? I will make sure you die a horrible death. Huang Wu roared. You talk too much. Scram! Lu Ming swept his spear, and Huang Wu was sent flying like a cannonball. He turned into a black dot and disappeared. After sweeping Huang Wu away, Lu Ming took a deep breath and kept Huang Wu's war saber. A lower rank 6 divine weapon was not cheap and could be exchanged for many fragments for Qiu. As Qiu's level increased, his appetite also grew stronger. He even disliked the fragments of low-level divine weapons and insisted on eating fragments of higher level than his own. Brat, you dare to hurt Huang Wu? Do you know who he is? You are dead. Do you know that? One of the young men who came with Huang Wu roared. Scram! If you don't scram, I will beat you up too. Lu Ming's cold gaze swept over the 2 young men. The 2 young men shuddered and fear appeared on their faces. They did not dare to say anything and left with their tails between their legs. This newcomer is really arrogant, a half-deity with such terrifying battle strength. He is probably a peerless genius. However, Huang Wu's background is not small. His elder brother is a peak figure among the inner disciples and is also a member of a holy prince's faction. This newcomer will have a hard time in the future. That's right. Unless he has a backer, he is finished. Some of the older disciples discussed. Some of the new disciples were stunned. They did not expect Lu Ming to be so strong that he even dared to beat up the older disciples. Many of them looked at him with flickering eyes and then went to find a courtyard to stay in without saying a word. They did not dare to get too close to Lu Ming, afraid that they would be implicated by Lu Ming. Brother Lu, many thanks. At this time, Deng Yu walked over and cupped his fists. What are you thanking me for? I just don't want to give you divine crystals. Lu Ming smiled. Brother Lu, you still have to be careful. Those people dared to openly extort the new disciples. I'm afraid their background is not small. I'm afraid there will be revenge later, Deng Yu reminded. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Lu Ming smiled. What had he not experienced along the way? What dangers had he not encountered? His mentality was incomparably firm. Chapter 2660. Next, Lu Ming found an empty courtyard to stay in. At the entrance of the courtyard, there was a sign with the number 86 foot written on it. Lu Ming took down the sign and put it away. It meant that someone was staying here. It seems that I have to break through to the empty god realm as soon as possible. Lu Ming thought. He looked indifferent on the surface, but he felt a sense of urgency in his heart. Although he was strong, this was the Kongxian school. As one of the 13 sects of Qin Tian, there were many geniuses. Those who could cultivate here were all geniuses. It was hard to count the number of geniuses that had accumulated over the years. If they did not become true gods in 1,000,000 years, they would be sent to other planets to take care of things. In other words, the outer sect alone had accumulated over the years. How many geniuses would there be? Every 1,000 years, there would be more than 100 geniuses. In 1,000,000 years, there would be more than 100,000 geniuses. Moreover, the Kongshan school did not recruit disciples solely based on the examination that was held once every 1,000 years. Usually, there would be some experts who would travel to various planets to look for talented geniuses to directly recruit them into the sect. The number of geniuses who joined in this way was not small. In 1,000,000 years, the number of geniuses was shocking. Even if there were many who broke through to the true God realm and became inner sect disciples, there were still many who stayed. There were probably close to 100,000 geniuses. These geniuses were strong and talented. Facing these geniuses, Lu Ming's ability to fight those who were stronger than him would be greatly reduced. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and circulated his energy to regulate his breathing. At this time, the battle between Lu Ming and Huang Wu had also spread among the outer sect disciples. What? A new disciple defeated Huang Wu? Huang Wu is a level 5 empty god realm cultivator, and his incomplete divine skill has reached level 5. He is very strong. A new disciple who just joined the sect can defeat Huang Wu. He is not simple. Indeed, he is not simple. Could he be a genius from a big clan? Many people guessed. After all, the 13 sects of Qin Tian would recruit a new batch of disciples every 1,000 years. Those who were talented and strong would usually participate and would not be too old. Therefore, those who participated in the disciple recruitment examination did not cultivate for a long time. Naturally, their cultivation was not high. There weren't many veteran disciples who were able to defeat Huang Wu as soon as they joined the Master-Teacher Pavilion. Wei Qing, you were also present back then. Do you know Lu Ming's background and which galaxy he came from? Someone asked a young man who was there. From the chaotic Star River. I heard him say so himself. Wei Qing said. What? From the chaotic galaxy. Wei Qing. Has Lu Ming's cultivation level surpassed Huang Wu's and reached level 6 empty god realm? Otherwise, how could he be Huang Wu's match? The Qin Tian 13 sects have never been open to the chaotic galaxy. There are some supreme talents in the chaotic galaxy who have cultivated for almost 10,000 years. It is not impossible for them to reach level 6 empty god realm. Yes, it must be so. Many people were sure that Lu Ming must have cultivated for almost 10,000 years, and his cultivation must have surpassed Huang Wu's to defeat him. His cultivation is not higher than Huang Wu's, Wei Qing said speechlessly. What? Not higher than Huang Wu's? Is he also a level 5 empty god? He is at the same level as Huang Wu and defeated Huang Wu when he just joined the sect? Is it true? A senior outer disciple did not believe it. If that's really the case, then this person's comprehension ability is truly shocking. He must have cultivated the incomplete divine skill to an extremely high level. Or perhaps he had a fortuitous encounter a long time ago and obtained other incomplete divine skills. Only after cultivating for many years could he defeat Huang Wu. Another senior outer disciple guessed. Sai, let me tell you, Lu Ming is not even an empty god, Wei Qing said. Not an empty god? Wei Qing, you must be mistaken. If he is not an empty god, could he be a true god? How can a person who has cultivated for less than 10,000 years reach the true god realm? Even if he is a true god, he would not be an outer disciple. He must have become an inner disciple. Many outer disciples despised Wei Qing, who said, he is a true god. He is not a true god nor an empty god. He is a half-god. Do you know what a half-god is? Wei Qing was anxious and blurted it out. The crowd fell silent. Then, The crowd burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, Wei Qing, are you crazy? Half-god. A half-god defeated Huangwu? Wei Qing, are you talking in your sleep? Do you think we are 3 years old and easy to fool? Everyone sneered at Wei Qing. They did not believe him and mocked him. Wei Qing's face turned red, and he shouted, "That is the truth. Lu Ming is a half-god and defeated Huangwu. I am not the only one who saw it. Others have seen it too. Also, new outer disciples have to register at the human hall within 3 days to receive their identity token and have their cultivation tested. If you don't believe me, we can wait at the human hall. When Lu Ming is there, you will know that I am not lying." Seeing Wei Qing's expression, the others fell silent. Could it be that Wei Qing was telling the truth? However, they still found it hard to believe that a half-god could defeat Huangwu. In fact, even Wei Qing himself would not believe it if he did not see it with his own eyes. "Let's go to the human hall and wait. I don't believe it. Let's go." The group of people went to the human hall and waited there. A few hours later, Lu Ming recovered to his peak state. He got up and went to the human hall. The human hall was the outer disciple of the Kongshan school. Everyone knew where it was. After asking around, Lu Ming easily found the human hall. The human resource hall was a huge hall. "He is here. Lu Ming is here. That is Lu Ming." As soon as Lu Ming arrived, Wei Qing pointed at Lu Ming and shouted, "That kid is Lu Ming? I want to see what his cultivation is." An outer disciple extended his spiritual consciousness, trying to detect Lu Ming's cultivation. Lu Ming sensed it instantly. His spiritual consciousness also rushed out and blocked the person's prying. That person retracted his spiritual sense and said, "He found out, but he didn't find out. Let's just wait and see." Lu Ming glanced at the group of people and then stepped into the hall. Wei Qing and the others followed from a distance. In fact, there were many people who were as curious as Wei Qing and the others. They stood aside and watched as if nothing had happened. Lu Ming came to a counter. At the counter, an old man looked at Lu Ming and said, "Are you a new disciple?" "Yes." Lu Ming nodded. "Name, age, which galaxy you are from, report it all," the old man said. Lu Ming reported his information. "Infuse divine power into this crystal ball. It can detect your cultivation." The old man took out a crystal ball and gave it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded, took the crystal ball, and infused it with divine power. Suddenly, the crystal ball emitted light. Demigod. The old man was a little surprised. He then recorded Lu Ming's information. Demigod. "Look, it's really a half-body." The veteran outer sect disciples who were watching nearby were all dumbfounded and speechless. Lu Ming was really a demigod. Chapter 2661. The veteran outer disciples were all dumbfounded. They did not believe that Lu Ming was a half-god, but now they had no choice but to believe it. That was because the results of the crystal ball test could not be faked. Lu Ming defeated Huangwu, who was a level 5 empty god realm martial artist, with his half-god cultivation. How was that possible? It was like a fantasy story. Monster, a real monster. Many people looked at Lu Ming with solemn eyes. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. Of course, Lu Ming knew what the people around him were up to. The reason why he had defeated Huangwu in such a domineering manner was to establish his dominance. Lu Ming had been through a lot along the way. He naturally knew that newbies would be bullied no matter where they went. Therefore, he had to display his powerful abilities so that others would be in awe of him and he would have fewer troubles. Otherwise, how could he cultivate if a group of people came to provoke him? In this way, there would be fewer outer disciples who dared to provoke him. After registering his information, the old man gave Lu Ming an identity token. After receiving the identity token, Lu Ming turned and left. "Brother Lu." Just as Lu Ming walked out of the personnel hall, someone called out to him and Deng Yu caught up with him. "Brother Deng, what's the matter?" Lu Ming smiled. "Brother Lu, I just heard that Huang Wu's background is not to be underestimated. Deng Yu said, "Oh, what's his background?" Lu Ming asked. "I've heard that Deng Yu's elder brother is one of the geniuses among the inner disciples. His strength is extremely powerful. Furthermore, his elder brother's master is an inner elder with terrifying strength," Deng Yu said solemnly. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. He did not expect Huang Wu to have such a background. However, since he had done it, there was nothing to be afraid of. He would deal with whatever came his way. "Thank you, Brother Deng." Lu Ming smiled. Deng Yu dared to tell him about Huang Wu's background after knowing about it. He was a good person and worth befriending. He did not see anyone else and had already distanced himself from Lu Ming. The two chatted as they returned to their residence. After returning to his room, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged. With a thought, an exquisite dagger appeared in Lu Ming's hand. This dagger was given to him by the ancestor of techniques. He wanted him to bring it to a girl called Yuexin from the Kongxian school. However, according to the ancestor of techniques, Yuexin was the daughter of an important figure in the Kongxian school. She was most likely not in the outer sect. He was in the outer sect now, so it would not be easy to find Yuexin. If you have time, get someone to investigate, Lu Ming thought to himself. He then put away the dagger and took out a jade bottle. The jade bottle contained the spirit strengthening pill. The spirit strengthening pill could greatly increase the strength of the divine power and refine the divine power. It would be of great help in breaking through to the empty god realm. When one's cultivation had reached the demigod realm, there was no need to comprehend the Tao. This was especially true for demigods and empty gods. As long as they continued to refine their divine power, their cultivation would naturally increase. However, without the help of divine pills or treasures, the process would be very slow. After consuming the spirit strengthening pill, Lu Ming started to refine it. The spirit strengthening pill turned into a surge of energy and flowed into the divine flame in Lu Ming's dantian. It was refined by the divine flame and turned into divine power. At the same time, the surrounding space was filled with rich divine aura. It was constantly gathering toward Lu Ming and surging into his body. It was refined by Lu Ming and slowly transformed into divine power. After a few days, Lu Ming finished refining the spirit strengthening pill and ended his cultivation. The divine qi in the Kongxian star is too dense. Cultivating here is several times faster than cultivating in the chaotic galaxy. At this rate, I will become a divine being in less than a year. Lu Ming revealed a faint smile. After a few days of cultivation, Lu Ming could feel that the divine flame in his body had grown stronger. Traces of divine power flowed out from the divine flame and flowed into his meridians. From the demigod realm to the empty god realm, it was a slow process. Most people would have to stay in the empty god realm for a long time. However, the divine qi in the Kongxian star was extremely dense. With the help of the spirit strengthening pill, Lu Ming was confident that he could become a divine being in less than a year. Someone's here. At this moment, Lu Ming sensed that someone was flying in from outside the courtyard and then stopped at the entrance of his courtyard. Clang! The door of his courtyard was pushed open. Lu Ming frowned. With a flash, he left the room and came to the courtyard of the other courtyard. A young man walked in from outside the door. He was dressed in luxurious robes, and his face was cold and arrogant. He glanced at Lu Ming and smiled. "You are Lu Ming?" Although this person was smiling, his tone still revealed a hint of arrogance. "That's right, I am Lu Ming. Did Huang Wu send you here?" Lu Ming asked. "No." The young man shook his head and said, "Huang Wu is not qualified to send me here. Someone wants to see you. It might be a great opportunity for you." "Someone wants to see me? Opportunity?" Lu Ming was stunned. He had just arrived and did not know anyone. "That's right. Come with me." The young man turned around and left after saying that. Lu Ming frowned. Initially, the attitude of the young man in luxurious clothes made him uncomfortable, and he did not want to go. However, he was indeed curious. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and followed the young man. They walked out of courtyard and soared into the sky. Not long after, they landed in a luxurious courtyard. This courtyard was very luxurious. It was more than 10 times bigger than Lu Ming's courtyard. The location was also very good, and the atmosphere was very dense. Lu Ming and the young man walked into the courtyard and saw a few tables and chairs. A few young men were sitting at the tables and chairs, drinking wine and chatting. "Big brothering, I've brought him here." The young man cupped his fists towards a golden-haired young man and sat down at a table. Sitting at the head was a golden-haired young man. He had a dignified appearance and a strong aura. It was obvious that he was an expert. "You are Lu Ming." The golden-haired young man and the other young men all looked at Lu Ming. "That's right." Lu Ming said, "Sit." The golden-haired young man waved his hand and pointed at a table. Lu Ming was puzzled. He was sure that he had never seen these people before. However, Lu Ming was not afraid and sat down at a table. "I heard that you ranked first in the 13-sex trial." The golden-haired young man took a sip of wine and smiled. "I was just lucky." Lu Ming said, "No matter what, to be able to get first means that your talent is not bad. To tell you the truth, we are under the Tianhong Saint and belong to the Tianhong faction." The golden-haired young man said, "Tianhong Saint? Tianhong faction?" Lu Ming was puzzled. "You just came here and might not know. Let me tell you." The golden-haired young man said, "Kongshan School is very powerful and powerful. It has many experts. Other than the sect master and some grand elders, there are many factions under them, led by the saints and saintesses." Chapter 2662. The golden-haired young man explained to Lu Ming in detail. In the Kongshan School, as long as a prodigy with holy or divine force reached a certain level of cultivation, they could form their own faction. Those who had holy divine force were known as saints or saintesses. Those who had divine force were known as deities. These saints, saintesses, and deities could be considered candidates for the future sect leader. The future sect leader would definitely be born from these people. These saints, saintesses, and deities were equivalent to the princes of an empire. Every one of them had many supporters in the Kongshan School. Outer sect disciples, inner sect disciples, outer sect elders, and even inner sect elders all had their own supporters. As long as the person they supported became the sect leader in the future, the people in this faction would naturally rise to the top. It could be said that these factions were extremely powerful in the Kongshan School. In fact, it wasn't just the Kongshan School that was like this. The Qin Tian 13 sects and other sects were also like this. The golden-haired young man and the others belonged to one of the saints, the Tianhong Saints faction. When they heard that Lu Ming was the top scorer in this year's assessment, they wanted to recruit Lu Ming to join the Tianhong Saints faction. What do you think? Join the Tianhong Saints faction. It will benefit you a lot. The golden-haired young man said, "I'm sorry, but I don't have any plans to join any faction for the time being." Lu Ming said, he came to the Kongshan School mainly to borrow the resources of the Kongshan School to cultivate. He had no intention of getting involved in the struggles of various factions. Hearing Lu Ming's rejection, the golden-haired young man and the other young men frowned. "Lu Ming, I know that you offended Huang Wu a few days ago. Let me tell you, Huang Wu's background is not small. His elder brother is a genius among the inner disciples. His elder brother's master is a powerful inner sect elder. Moreover, they belong to another faction of the chosen Fukoseiko's faction. Huang Wu will definitely seek revenge on you later. As long as you join the Tianhong Saint Sun, you will receive our protection. Even Huang Wu will not be able to do anything to you." The golden-haired youth said, "I'm sorry, but I really don't intend to join any faction." Lu Ming shook his head and refused again. Needless to say, once he joined a certain faction, he would become a hired thug and tool of that faction. Lu Ming had no interest in working for a certain saint. In addition, the attitude of the finely dressed youth from before had made Lu Ming very unhappy. Lu Ming did not have a good impression of this person from the Skybright Saints faction. Although the golden-haired youth had a smile on his face, his tone was cold and arrogant. It was as if he was looking down on Lu Ming. "Kid, don't be so shameless. Don't think that you're so great just because you got first place in the assessment. The 13 sects recruit disciples once every 1,000 years. For countless years, people like you have been found everywhere." The finely dressed youth slammed the table and scolded coldly. "That's right. We invited you to join the Skybright Saint's son because we think highly of you. Don't think too highly of yourself. You won't even know how you died." Another young man said coldly, "Oh, since you don't welcome me, I'll leave." Lu Ming said indifferently. He stood up and was about to leave. "Stop right there. You think you can come and go as you wish? Where do you think this is?" The finely dressed youth suddenly stood up and scolded. "Hee, what a joke. You invited me just now. Otherwise, do you think I would come?" Lu Ming sneered. "Kid, what's with your attitude? You're courting death." The finely dressed youth snorted and circulated his divine force. Powerful divine force burst out and pressed down on Lu Ming. Level 7 Empty God Realm. The finely dressed youth was at level 7 Empty God Realm and was extremely powerful. He was much more powerful than Huang Wu. Lu Ming circulated his divine force and was ready to strike. So what if the other party was powerful? Lu Ming would not allow himself to be captured without a fight. Why? This is the style of the Skybright Saint Sun's faction. If you don't agree to join, you'll take action. If this matter spreads out, let's see who will join the Skybright Saint Sun's faction. Lu Ming said coldly, "You dare to threaten me?" The finely dressed youth's eyes turned colder, and he was about to strike. "Let him go." The golden-haired youth's voice sounded. "Brother Ing," the finely dressed youth said anxiously, "let him go. We, the Skybright Saint Sun's faction, will not force others to do things against their will." The golden-haired youth raised his hand, and the finely dressed youth had no choice but to withdraw his aura. Lu Ming did not turn back and strode away. After Lu Ming left, the finely dressed youth said unhappily, "Brother Ing, why didn't you let me teach that Lu Ming a lesson? This guy doesn't know what's good for him." "That's right. This person can be ranked first. His talent is not bad. If he joins other factions, it won't do us any good." The other youth added, "Don't worry. If he doesn't join our faction and joins other factions, he will be an enemy. We can't let such a person stay in this world. Inform the others. If they meet this person outside, they will have the chance to kill him. However, I'm afraid he won't be able to get past Huang Wu. Let's just wait for a good show." The golden-haired youth said coldly. The smile on his face had disappeared and was replaced with killing intent. Originally, Lu Ming had ranked first in the assessment, and his talent was not weak. He had wanted to recruit Lu Ming to the Skybright Saint Sun's faction. After all, there was a reward for recruiting a supreme talent. He had not expected Lu Ming to be so stubborn. "I didn't expect the relationships in the Kongxian school to be so complicated. Forget it. I'll raise my strength first." Back in the courtyard, Lu Ming frowned. The Kongxian school's waters were very deep. Only when one's own strength was strong could one be unafraid of the storms outside. Lu Ming immediately continued to refine the spirit-strengthening pill and cultivate. In another luxurious courtyard in the outer area of the Kongxian school. This courtyard was Huang Wu's courtyard. Huang Wu's injuries had already healed, and he was discussing matters with a few lackeys. "Lu Ming, I want him to die a horrible death." Huang Wu said with a cold expression, "Senior Brother Huang Wu, should we report this matter to Senior Brother Huang Wen and ask him to send people to deal with Lu Ming?" One of the lackeys suggested, "Huang, Wen was Huang Wu's elder brother. My elder brother has been in seclusion to break through to the next realm. There's no need to disturb him over such a small matter. Go, call the Lu brothers over. Have them cripple Lu Ming. Huang Wu said, Senior brother is wise. The Lu brothers are both at level 6 of the Void God Realm. With the two of them working together, they can easily crush Lu Ming. I'll call them over now. One of the lackeys said. In Lu Ming's courtyard, he was refining the spirit-strengthening pill when suddenly a loud roar came from outside. Lu Ming, get out here. The roar was so loud that it shook Lu Ming's courtyard. Lu Ming opened his eyes abruptly. A trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. No one would be in a good mood if they were disturbed in the middle of cultivation. Lu Ming ended his cultivation and walked out of the courtyard. He saw a few figures standing in front of him. Huang Wu. Lu Ming saw Huang Wu at first glance. Chapter 2663. Beside Huang Wu, there were two young men. The two of them looked similar, but their figures were different. One of them was short and fat, while the other was tall and skinny. Both of them stared at Lu Ming with hostility. It's you again. Are you looking for trouble? Lu Ming looked at Huang Wu coldly. Brat, you're good. This time I will cripple you. Go and break his limbs. I want him to cry on the ground. Huang Wu said viciously. It wasn't that he didn't want to kill Lu Ming, but there were rules in the Kongxian school. In the Kongxian school, disciples from the same sect were not allowed to kill each other. However, fighting was not forbidden. As long as one didn't kill or cripple one's cultivation, they could do whatever they wanted. Otherwise, Huang Wu would have crushed Lu Ming into ashes. Junior brother Huang Wu, don't worry. I will break his limbs and make him cry on the ground like a cripple. The short and fat young man said ferociously. Divine force burst out from his body, and he was like a mountain, pressing down on Lu Ming. The tall and skinny young man also burst out with divine force and stepped towards Lu Ming. Rank 6 Empty God Realm. The short and fat young man and the tall and skinny young man were both rank 6 Empty God Realm martial artists. Their divine force was undoubtedly king, grade divine force. Lu Ming frowned slightly. With his current cultivation rank, he might not be a match for a rank 6 Empty God Realm martial artist who had king grade divine force. Kneel down! Kneel down! The short and fat young man and the tall and skinny young man shouted and attacked Lu Ming at the same time. Both of their weapons were huge hammers, and when they waved them around, the power was shocking. Boom! Boom! A strong wind blew, and a terrifying force swept towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming took a step back and quickly retreated. You want to leave? Stay! The Lu brothers shouted and chased after Lu Ming. Their hammers were like a storm as they attacked Lu Ming. This was an incomplete divine skill. When the two of them worked together, the power was multiplied. Who said I'm leaving? At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly stopped. He waved his hand and shouted, Smash! A bracelet flew out of Lu Ming's hand and turned into a huge ball, smashing towards the short and fat youth. Scram! The short and fat youth roared, and the hammer continued to smash down on the round ball. Boom! With a loud boom, the short and fat young man's eyes popped out. He screamed and flew out like a kite with a broken string. He landed heavily on the ground and couldn't get up for a long time. That round ball was naturally Little Ball. Over the past few days, Qiu had devoured large amounts of divine tool fragments and metal attribute refining materials. It had advanced once again. Now, Qiu had already reached level 5 Void God Realm. With Qiu's strength at level 5 Empty God Realm, defeating the short and fat youth at level 6 Empty God Realm was not a problem at all. Unless the other party had reached level 7 Empty God Realm and possessed royal grade divine force, he would be able to withstand Qiu's attack. After sending the short and fat youth flying, Qiu smashed towards the tall and skinny youth with a swoosh. In the end, he was sent flying by Qiu, just like the short and fat youth. He fell to the ground and vomited blood. What? Huang Wu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. That is a metallic life form. The commotion here had already alerted the outer disciples in the nearby courtyards. The scene of Qiu smashing the Lu brothers, flying, had naturally been witnessed by them. Those people were shocked. They hadn't expected Lu Ming to have such a powerful metallic life form on him. Now it's your turn. Lu Ming's cold gaze swept over Huang Wu. Huang Wu was almost scared to death. He turned and ran. However, how could he be faster than Qiu? Qiu flew over and smashed down on his head. Huang Wu tried his best to block it, but he was also sent flying and vomited blood on the ground. Just now, you said you would break my limbs. Now I'll try it on you. Lu Ming stepped forward and condensed his divine force into a long spear. Lu Ming, don't you dare! Do you know who my big brother is? My big brother is Huang Wen, a heavenly genius of the inner sect. If you dare injure me, my big brother won't let you off. Huang Wu roared, threatening Lu Ming. You talk too much. Lu Ming said coldly. He drew out his long spear and whipped Huang Wu's legs. Huang Wu miserably screamed. His legs were broken, and his bones were even visible. Blood was flowing. Although such injuries could be quickly healed, that kind of pain was real. It wouldn't lessen in the slightest. H, brat, you're dead. I'll grind your bones to dust. Huang Wu roared. Bang, bang. Lu Ming once more waved his spear, breaking the bones in Huang Wu's arms. Huang Wu was now like a pile of mud on the ground. How brazen! The other outer sect disciples all sucked in a cold breath. Despite knowing Huang Wu's identity, he still dared to be so ruthless. Scram! Lu Ming sent Huang Wu flying with a kick, turning him into a black dot in the air. If it wasn't for the Kongxian school's rule against killing, Lu Ming wouldn't hesitate to kill Huang Wu. Ruthless, truly ruthless. To treat Huang Wu like this, he'll definitely take revenge. Definitely. When he asks his big brother to come, he'll casually invite an outer sect expert. Lu Ming will be in danger. Too impulsive, unwise. The other outer sect disciples were secretly discussing. Lu Ming's gaze was somewhat focused. He was about to return to his room to continue cultivating, striving to break through as soon as possible. At this time, a ray of light flew over from the distance. A middle-aged man appeared in the air. All disciples who have joined the sect for less than 3,000 years immediately gather at the square at the foot of the mountain. The middle-aged man spoke, his voice rumbling, spreading throughout the area. After saying this, the middle-aged man repeated it twice before turning around and leaving. Those who have joined the sect for less than 3,000 years. Lu Ming was flabbergasted. He didn't understand why. Looks like we're going to that place. I'm so envious. Yeah, if I can go there again. I'm afraid I'll be able to break through my cultivation. Some of the veteran outer sect disciples immediately began to discuss. Many of them revealed looks of envy. As for those like Lu Ming who had just joined the sect, they were also flabbergasted. However, they didn't ask much and flew to the foot of the mountain. There was a huge square at the foot of the mountain. They gathered there. Little Qing. As soon as Lu Ming arrived, he saw Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan were both women. Lu Ming. Seeing Lu Ming, Xian Yinqing also revealed a smile and flew over. Many people looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. What a beautiful woman. It's a pity that she's already taken. Who is that kid? He's so lucky. I'm so envious. Many male disciples looked at Lu Ming with envy, jealousy, and hatred. There were even more people who flew to the female disciples and greeted them, taking the opportunity to close the distance. Chapter 2664. In a short while, more than 600 people had gathered in the square. They were all disciples who had joined the sect within the last 3,000 years. At that moment, a few figures flew over from afar. There were 5 of them. There were elders and middle-aged men. The middle-aged man in the middle was wearing a loose black robe. Everyone recognized that it was the symbol of an outer elder. As for the other 4, they were wearing the symbol of an outer deacon. Today, I have called all of you here to bring you to a place. That place is a training ground, but it is also an opportunity. Consider it a benefit for all of you. The outer elder said, "Training? Benefit?" Everyone was surprised. That's right. On Kongshan Star, there is a strange forest. There are many plant life forms living there. These plant life forms are unique. Their bodies contain a type of wood crystal. This wood crystal contains rich and pure energy. It is easy for empty gods to absorb and refine it. It is a great help for accumulating and increasing divine power. It can increase your cultivation rank in a short period of time. According to the rules of the sect, the forest will only open once every 3,000 years. Therefore, all disciples who have joined the sect within the last 3,000 years can enter. Consider it a benefit for all of you. However, some of these plant life forms are aggressive and some are poisonous. They are dangerous. Consider it a training ground for all of you. The outer elder explained. Everyone was enlightened and some of them were excited. They had just joined the sect, and yet they were able to enjoy such benefits. No wonder it was a top sect. Swoosh! The outer elder waved his hand, and a sacred artifact, combat, sword appeared. It expanded rapidly and became a few 100 miles wide. Go up, I will bring all of you there. The outer elder and the 4 deacons were the first to land on the sacred artifact, giant sword. Then Lu Ming and the rest flew onto the giant sword. Let's go, the outer sect elder shouted. The huge sword turned into a beam of light and flew into the distance at an extremely fast speed. Lu Ming and the rest were on the giant sword. They were stable and did not move at all. So fast. Is this the strength of a heavenly god? Lu Ming looked at the mountains, rivers, and so on that were constantly passing by. He sighed inwardly. It was too fast. Even with Lu Ming's eyesight, he couldn't see the passing scenery clearly. As an outer elder of the Kongshan school, his cultivation was at least in the heavenly god realm. Someone like him could travel across the starry sky with his flesh alone. His speed was naturally shocking. However, the surface area of Kongshan Star was too big. Even with the help of heavenly god realm experts, it would still take some time for them to get there. Lu Ming suddenly looked in a certain direction. Just now, Lu Ming felt that someone was looking at him with killing intent. When Lu Ming glanced over, a few young men immediately turned their heads away and pretended as if nothing had happened. They want to kill me? Are they Huang Wu's men? Lu Ming thought to himself. Lu Ming, those people want to kill you. Xia Nianqing whispered. Obviously, he had also felt it. Yeah, I can feel it. Be careful when we reach the botany forest. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Xia Nianqing. The 2 of them chatted for a while and sat down cross-legged at the side. However, Lu Ming could feel killing intent sweeping towards him from time to time. Although it was well hidden, Lu Ming's spiritual sense was extremely sharp and he could clearly sense it. A few hours later, the giant sword stopped. There was a huge mountain range in front of them. The mountain range was extremely vast and ancient trees towered into the sky. One couldn't see the end of it. The area of the mountain range was probably 10 times larger than the heaven boundary, primordial realm, and evil god realm combined. This is our destination this time, the botany forest. There are many plant life forms living in it. Although the plant life forms are not too strong, and there are almost no true god realm existences. You have to act according to your own strength. Don't lose your life because of greed. Also, you only have 3 months. After 3 months, you must come out. Go. The outer elder waved his hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, nearly 600 people turned into streaks of light and flew into the mountain range and into the boundless forest. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing also flew towards the botany forest. "Let's go together." Xian Yinjuan appeared beside Lu Ming. "All right." Lu Ming nodded. They flew for a while and then rushed into the vast botany forest. "The four of you go in and take a look. If there is really a true God realm plant life form, kill it." After everyone had entered the botany forest, the outer elder instructed the 4 deacons. Yes, the 4 deacons also rushed into the botany forest in a flash. As for the outer sanctum elder, he waited outside. Lu Ming, Xian Yinqing, and Xian Yinjuan landed in a forest. It was quiet in the forest. Other than the sound of the wind, there was no other sound. Other than plants, there were no other living beings. The 3 of them observed for a while and then went into the depths of the forest. Whoosh! When Lu Ming passed by an old vine, the old vine moved and wrapped around Lu Ming like a soft whip. There were sharp thorns on the old vine that emitted a green light. It was obvious that it was highly poisonous. Plant life form. Lu Ming's eyes moved. A divine weapon battle sword appeared in his hand, and he slashed out. Puff! The old vine was directly cut by Lu Ming, and dark green liquid flowed out. Afterward, Lu Ming saw an old vine uprooting and scampering away, trying to escape. Still want to run? Lu Ming used the rockwing technique and caught up with the old vine in a flash. He slashed at the root of the old vine. The old vine twitched a few times and stopped moving. Afterward, Lu Ming broke open the old vines and found a green crystal that was about the size of a finger. This was the wood crystal. It contained very rich energy essence. Let's see what the energy is like. Lu Ming opened his mouth and sucked the wood crystal into his mouth. Instantly, the wood crystal turned into rolling energy and poured into the divine flame. Soon, the energy of the wood crystal was directly converted into divine power. It can be directly absorbed and converted. Lu Ming exclaimed. Refining the wood crystal was even faster than refining the spirit strengthening pill. However, the old vine was only at level 1 of the ethereal god realm. It did not contain much energy. Then, the 3 of them continued to move forward. However, after walking for a while, they did not find any traces of plant life forms. Not all the plants in the forest were plant life forms. Many of them were not plant life forms and were just ordinary plants. If these plant life forms don't attack, they will be like ordinary plants. It's hard to find them. Xian Yinqing said. Lu Ming and Xie Ninjuan frowned. That was true. If the plant life forms did not attack, even if they were beside them, they might not be able to find them. Lu Ming, try Little Ball. Little Ball is a metal life form. It is a special life form like the plant life forms. Perhaps it can sense them. Xie Nianqing suggested. Chapter 2665. Xian Yinqing's words made Lu Ming's eyes light up. That's right, Qiuqiu was a metallic life form. Like plant life forms, it was a special life form. Could he sense it? Immediately, Lu Ming woke Qiuqiu up. Every time Qiuqiu turned into a bracelet and wore it on Lu Ming's wrist, it was basically sleeping and digesting the divine tool fragments and refining materials it had eaten. Crunch, crunch. After being woken up, Qiuqiu turned into a metallic ball. A large mouth appeared on it and kept biting. This glutton wants to eat as soon as it wakes up. Lu Ming smiled speechlessly. He took out a divine tool fragment of a level 5 divine tool and threw it to Qiuqiu. Qiuqiu bit it and started eating. Sparks flew between its teeth. The level 5 divine tool fragment was completely devoured by Qiuqiu in the blink of an eye. Qiuqiu, sense it. There are plant life forms here. Let's see if you can sense them. Lu Ming said to Qiuqiu. Crunch, crunch. A pair of eyes appeared above Qiuqiu's mouth, and it started looking around. Swish. Suddenly, Qiuqiu flew out towards a tree as thick as a thigh and bit it. Swish. Immediately, the tree jumped up and swept its branches in all directions. Its roots were like venomous snakes as they coiled around Qiuqiu. There really is one, Lu Ming, Xian Yinqing, and Xian Yinjuan were all overjoyed. This tree was just beside them, but they didn't sense it. Swish! Xian Yinjuan was close to the tree and immediately attacked. With a flash of his sword, the tree was cut into hundreds of pieces. Wood fragments flew everywhere. A wood crystal appeared in the air and was caught by Xian Yinjuan. Swish! Then Qiu flew to the other side and bit at a plant that looked like a weed. Immediately, this plant jumped up and ran away, but it was killed by Xian Yinqing's sword. Sha! In the next moment, the plants around Lu Ming and the others seemed to move. At least a dozen plants moved. Their roots left the ground like feet as they scampered off into the distance. There were large trees that required several people to wrap their arms around, slender bamboos, a few large locust trees, and a few old vines, so many. Lu Ming and the others were tongue-tied. When these plant life forms were motionless, it was impossible to tell. Unexpectedly, there were so many plant life forms around them. Were they trying to ambush them? Kill! Lu Ming and the other two didn't hold back at all as they charged towards these plant life forms. These plant life forms were not of high levels, and the most powerful one was only at level 5 Empty God Realm. Not long after, all of them were killed by Lu Ming and the rest. They obtained more than 10 wood crystals. This kind of wood crystal was very easy to refine. After the 3 of them split it equally, they swallowed it on the spot and refined it. In less than an hour, they had refined all of the wood crystals. Lu Ming felt the divine force in his body grow stronger. A wisp of divine flame burned fiercely in his dantian, overflowing with divine force and flowing through his meridians. Once his meridians were filled with divine force, Lu Ming would be able to break through to the martial God realm. Continue. Immediately, Lu Ming and the others brought Qiu and started to hunt the plant life forms. This forest only opened once every 3,000 years, so there were many plant life forms here. A few days later, they had killed more than 100 plants and obtained more than 100 wood crystals, which were all refined by the 3 of them. Lu Ming could feel the divine force in his body growing stronger. He was getting closer to the day of his breakthrough. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan's cultivation was slightly higher as they had reached level 3 Empty God Realm. They needed more energy to improve their cultivation, but they had made significant progress and were quickly approaching level 4 Empty God Realm. Treasure land. This forest was really a treasure land. No wonder the Outer Elder said it was a benefit for them. As long as they could kill the plant life forms, their cultivation would improve rapidly. It was indeed a benefit. Especially Lu Ming and the others, their speed of killing the plant life forms was extremely fast, which was a rare benefit. Their cultivation speed was incomparable to normal cultivation. Puff! A level 5 Empty God Realm tree with a diameter of 10 meters was slashed in half by Lu Ming's sword. Using a battle sword to deal with these plant life forms was more convenient. Lu Ming smiled. Just as he was about to peel the wood crystal, Lu Ming's hair stood on end and he quickly retreated. Boom! An arrow was shot from the front at a shocking speed. It landed on the ground where he had just stood, creating a huge pit. Lu Ming's face darkened as he looked ahead. His figure flickered and 5 young men appeared in front of him, 4 men and 1 woman. One of the young men held a big bow and appeared in front of the tree that Lu Ming had slashed in half. He dug out a wood crystal. It's such a waste to give this wood crystal to a few people who are about to die. The young man with the big bow sneered. He looked at Lu Ming and the others as though they were already dead. It's them. Lu Ming squinted his eyes. These people were the ones who had tried to kill him previously. Did Huang Wu send you? Lu Ming asked. You can't say that he was sent. The young man with the big bow smiled and said, Huang Wu and his elder brother, Huang Wen, are under Fuko Seiko. You have injured Fuko Seiko's men. Do you still want to live? Fuko Seiko. Lu Ming understood that these people were the same as Huang Wu. They were under Fuko Seiko's men. Lu Ming had beaten Huang Wu twice, and these people were here to avenge Huang Wu. These two girls are peerless. It's a pity to kill them. How about this? I'll give you a chance. The two of you, submit to us and serve us well. Then we'll spare your lives. Another young man looked at Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan with a lustful expression. Do you think that you can defeat us? Lu Ming said coldly. At the same time, he circulated his divine force and was ready for a battle. Lu Ming, your combat strength is not bad and you have a metallic life form. However, you will definitely die in front of us. The young man with the big bow said coldly as a powerful aura spread out from his body. As for the other four, they circulated their divine power. Powerful auras and ice-cold, murderous intent radiated from them without restraint. 2 level 7 empty god realm experts. 3 level 6 empty god realm experts. In an instant, Lu Ming judged the other party's ability. His heart sank slightly. These young men had been in the sect for 1,000 years, or even 2,000 years. They were very powerful, and the divine force that they controlled was king-grade divine force. Ordinary people could not compare with them. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan had shocking combat strength, but their cultivation was limited. They were only level 3 empty god realm experts. It would be difficult for them to deal with a level 6 empty god realm expert. Given Lu Ming's ability, he was no match for a level 6 void god. Qiu Qiu was slightly stronger, but a level 7 empty god realm expert was enough to stop him. The situation was not good for them. At this moment, a figure flashed in the sky and an elder appeared. This elder was one of the 4 deacons of the outer sect. The scene below was seen by the old man. Baidu searching 81 Chinese network O. No advertising message. Chapter 2666. The outer deacon stood in the sky and saw everything clearly. However, Lu Ming and the rest did not notice him. However, he did not stop them. This brat is stubborn. Our Tianhong faction invited him to join us, but he refused. Since he doesn't want to join our faction, he will be an enemy sooner or later. We can use the floating light faction to get rid of him. Ruthlessness flashed across Laozi's eyes. This old man was from the Skybright Saint Sun's faction. In Kongshan School, some of the outer deacons, inner deacons, outer elders, and even inner elders would join some factions to support a holy son or holy daughter to take over the faction of the sect master in the future. Since Lu Ming did not join the Tianhong faction, if he joined another faction in the future, he would be an enemy of the Tianhong faction. The old man chuckled. In a flash, he left the place and pretended that he had not seen anything. The two of you surrender now. Otherwise, you will end up in a miserable state. The young man with the big bow looked at Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan and spoke again. That's right. Hurry up. I will give you one last chance. Otherwise, you won't have another chance. The other level 7 empty god realm young man said coldly, Wait a minute. Let's charge together. Lu Ming sent a message to Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. Lu Ming, Xian Yanjuan, and I will cast the dark sacred light cage to trap a level 7 empty god realm cultivator. After that, we will charge together. Xian Yanqing replied. Lu Ming nodded his head, silently. At this moment, the other party had lost his patience. Stubborn. Then let's kill them together. Attack! The young man with the big bow shouted. He pulled the big bow and divine power surged. An arrow was formed. Retreat! Lu Ming shouted. The 3 of them retreated frantically with Xia Nianqing and Xian Yanjuan. You want to leave? Die! The bow-wielding youth shouted and shot out an arrow of light that was incomparably resplendent. It was like a shooting star as it shot towards Lu Ming, emitting a terrifying might. Lu Ming had once used the fallen star bow, so he knew that those who used bows and arrows as weapons usually had terrifying, single-target attack power. Lu Ming didn't dare to take them head-on. Qiu Qiu! Lu Ming waved his hand and Qiu flew out, turning into a shield in front of him. Clang! The meteor-like arrow struck the shield that Qiu had transformed into. The shield trembled incessantly, but in the end it was blocked. Kill! At the same time, the other 4 young men and women charged towards Lu Ming's group. The level 7 empty god was the fastest. In an instant he was near Lu Ming. Downwind slash! The youth shouted and slashed with his saber. A crescent saber radiance shot towards Lu Ming. Without any hesitation, Lu Ming brandished his long spear to block the attack. The long spear was a lower rank 9 sacred weapon. The long spear vibrated as Lu Ming unleashed the full power of his incomplete sacred skill. Clang! The long spear and the saber radiance collided. Lu Ming felt a terrifying force rushing towards him from the long spear, wanting to tear his body apart. Puff! Lu Ming spurted out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying a few hundred meters away. Powerful! Too powerful! With Lu Ming's current combat strength, he couldn't even defeat a level 6 empty god, let alone a level 7 empty god. The difference between them was too great. Lu Ming was injured in one move. However, with this delay, Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan finally made their move. Dark Sacred Light Skill. With 2 soft shouts, 2 suns appeared in the sky. One was black and the other was white. The black and white light intertwined and turned into a dark sacred light cage, enveloping the level 7 empty god. Boom! The level 7 empty god struck with his saber, but he couldn't break the dark sacred light cage. However, the other 3 level 6 empty god realm experts had also arrived. Boom! 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 The 3 of them struck at the same time and struck out a terrifying blow. Swoosh! Swoosh! Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan struck out continuously. Rays of sword radiance collided with their opponents. Clang! Clang! After a series of explosions, Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan borrowed the force of the explosion to retreat. Lower rank 9 sacred weapon. The opponents looked at the combat swords in Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan's hands greedily. The combat swords in Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan's hands were given to them by Lu Ming. They were lower rank 9 sacred weapons. Retreat! Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan retreated to Lu Ming's side, and the 3 of them continued to retreat. Qiu flew back quickly and met up with Lu Ming and the others. Don't even think about leaving. Chase after them. The young man with the big bow shouted and chased after them. The other 3 level 6 empty god realm young men and women also chased after them. Swoosh! The young man with the big bow shot out another terrifying arrow, but it was blocked by Qiu. Boom! At that moment, the young man who was trapped in the dark sacred light cage had also broken through the dark sacred light cage and chased after Lu Ming and the others. The 2 parties chased and fled quickly. Damn it, we must kill them. At that moment, the 5 young men and women with the big bow were shocked. After a short fight, they realized that the combat strength of Lu Ming and the others were shockingly high. Lu Ming was only a demigod, and Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan were only level 3 empty god realm. With such cultivation, they were able to block their attacks. Divine power. Lu Ming and the others must have mastered divine power. Otherwise, they would not be so powerful. They had to kill such people. If they were left alive, they would only be a disaster. Soon, the 2 parties had traveled for more than 100 miles. Sacred light escape skill. At that moment, sacred light surrounded Xian Yanjuan's body, and she looked like a holy saintess. Then, a white halo spread out and enveloped Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Swoosh! Immediately, their speed increased, and they became several times faster than before. They turned into streaks of light and disappeared before the eyes of the young men with the big bow. Damn it! The young men shouted angrily. That must be a secret skill to escape. With such fast speed, There must be repercussions. Chase them. This time we must kill them. The young man with the big bow said coldly. The 5 young men continued to chase in the direction that Lu Ming and the others had disappeared. Xian Yinjuan led Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing and flew for more than 100,000 miles before stopping. Then she spat out a mouthful of blood and her face turned pale. She forced herself to use the sacred light escape skill and is injured. Let's find a safe place first, Xian Yinqing said. Lu Ming nodded and led Xian Yinjuan away. Soon, they had traveled for more than 100,000 miles. The others would not be able to travel as fast in the forest because they did not know when they would be attacked by the plant life. However, they had Qiu Qiu with them. They could sense the presence of the plant life and avoid it in advance. Then, they found a hidden valley and rushed in. Once they entered the valley, Lu Ming immediately took out a healing elixir and fed it to Xian Yinjuan so that she could heal herself. Baidu searching 81 Chinese Networko. No advertisement. Chapter 2667. Fuko Seiko's faction. Huang Wu's faction. Lu Ming's eyes flickered coldly. It was obvious that the other party wanted to get rid of him in the Zhiwu forest. This time it was a close call. Breakthrough. I must achieve a breakthrough as soon as possible. Lu Ming clenched his fists tightly. This time, it was all thanks to Qiu Qiu, Xian Yinqing, and Xian Yinjuan. Xian Yinjuan had a formidable background. He had risked his injuries and executed a secret escape technique to bring them away. Otherwise, it would have been dangerous for Lu Ming to rely on his own strength. Strength. Lu Ming desperately needed strength. There were too many powerhouses in the primitive universe, and deities were everywhere. Lu Ming's current strength was too weak. After cultivating, my divine force has grown a lot stronger. If it grows a little stronger, I will be able to break through to the martial god realm. Lu Ming pondered. He swallowed a healing pill and began to treat his injuries. Previously, he had received an attack from a rank 7 empty god realm expert and had suffered some injuries. A few hours later, Lu Ming's injuries were fully healed. A wisp of divine flame burned brightly in his dantian. Divine force continuously flowed through his meridians. However, the density of his divine force was not perfect yet. It was still lacking. Let's give it a try. Lu Ming took out 2 jade bottles. The 2 jade bottles were filled with spirit strengthening pills. Lu Ming originally had 2 bottles of spirit strengthening pills. Each bottle contained 9 pills. He had used a few of them when he was cultivating, so he was left with a dozen pills. With a flash, Xian Yinqing appeared beside Lu Ming. Lu Ming, go ahead and cultivate. I will guard you, Xian Yinqing said. As soon as Lu Ming took out the spirit strengthening pills, Xian Yinqing immediately understood what Lu Ming was thinking. All right. Lu Ming nodded his head with a firm look in his eyes. He took a deep breath and absorbed the spirit-strengthening pills into his mouth. Boom, boom, boom. The medicinal energy of over a dozen spirit-strengthening pills was too strong. As soon as it spread, it turned into a surging wave of energy that surged through Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming returned to his original state. The divine flame burned fiercely, and he began to frantically refine the medicinal energy. Fortunately, the effect of the spirit-strengthening pill was to increase one's divine power, so refining it was not that difficult. If it were any other type of pill, swallowing so many of them at once would have torn apart Lu Ming's body, no matter how strong it was. The rich medicinal power was constantly being refined and converted into divine power. Lu Ming's divine power grew stronger and stronger, flowing through his meridians like mercury. That was God energy, the energy of the gods. It was much stronger than the energy of the world. A wisp of God energy could easily pierce through the energy of the world. If Lu Ming had not comprehended the path of the ruler and mastered the power of the ruler, he would not have been able to fight against an empty god with his cultivation of the heavenly emperor realm. Only the path of the ruler, which defied the natural order, could allow Lu Ming to fight against an empty god when he was in the heavenly emperor realm. Rumble. When all the medicinal energy was refined, the divine power in Lu Ming's body was extremely rich. It flowed through his meridians and returned to the divine flame. All right, time to break through to the martial god realm. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Afterward, the divine fire in his dantian suddenly soared. Initially, the divine flame was only the size of a fist. Now it was growing rapidly. Even the divine power flowing through Lu Ming's meridians seemed to have been ignited and turned into divine flames. Huff, huff! Lu Ming seemed to be shrouded in a ball of flames. Lu Ming was trying to break through to the martial god realm. Once he succeeded, his flesh would transform into a god flesh. Those with a god flesh would be considered a martial god. 2 days were gone in the same manner. Bang! A shocking aura burst out of his body. A beam of light soared into the sky and soared into the clouds. Wisps of god energy surged in Lu Ming's direction. Crap! Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan were startled. Such a huge commotion would most likely attract the attention of others. Devour! Lu Ming took out a huge number of god crystals and blasted them into pieces. Wisps of god energy surged into Lu Ming's body and were refined by Lu Ming. They were converted into divine force. Rumble! The divine flame in Lu Ming's dantian grew rapidly. The divine force in his body grew stronger too. Lu Ming absorbed a few tens of thousands of god crystals in one go before stopping. First layer, empty god realm. Success! Lu Ming had achieved the martial god realm and achieved the first layer empty god realm. His strength had improved tremendously. My battle character technique seems to have had a breakthrough too. Once he had a breakthrough in his cultivation, Lu Ming felt something in his heart. He discovered that his battle word incantation had also broken through the bottleneck and entered a new realm. Previously, even though the battle character technique had a 100% chance of doubling his strength, it was still difficult for him to improve it further. Right now, Lu Ming felt that he could activate the battle word tactic to increase his combat ability by 3 times. That's right, triple his strength. However, there was still a chance for him to triple his strength. Similar to the previous double his strength, it was impossible for him to succeed. Lu Ming still needed to comprehend it further. Let's go, let's leave this place first. Lu Ming rose from his seat and said after finishing his cultivation. His breakthrough had caused a huge commotion. He was afraid that it would attract the attention of his enemies. Let's go. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan nodded their heads. The 3 of them rushed out of the valley and into the depths of the forest. At that moment, many people were alerted by the commotion caused by Lu Ming's breakthrough and were heading in their direction. The 3 of them ran quickly. However, they were blocked after a short distance. Young man, let's see where you can run to. With a cold shout, 3 young men appeared in front of them and blocked their way. The 3 of them were the ones who had wanted to kill Lu Ming and the rest. One of them was a level 7 empty god, and the other 2 were level 6 empty gods. Go to hell, downwind slash. The 3 young men dashed toward Lu Ming at lightning speed. The young man at level 7 empty god realm slashed his saber, and a terrifying saber gleam slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand, and Chiu flew out. It turned into a metal ball and collided with the young man. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Xian Yanjuan rushed towards the 2 level 6 empty god realm young men. Buzz! Lu Ming's spear swept towards the level 6 empty god realm young man. The moment he struck, Lu Ming had activated the battle character manual to double his combat strength. Boom! There was a loud explosion, and the young man's face changed drastically. He was in disbelief. His body was like a cannonball, and he was sent flying by Lu Ming. He crashed into a huge tree that was 10 meters in diameter, and the huge tree was smashed into pieces. The young man was shocked. How did Lu Ming's strength suddenly increase? Kill! Lu Ming shouted and charged towards the young man. He had already broken through to level 1 empty god realm, and his divine power was many times stronger than before. He could crush a level 6 empty god realm martial artist. When Lu Ming was a half-god, he could fight with Huang Wu, who was a level 5 empty god realm martial artist. He could use a lower rank 9 divine weapon to suppress his opponent. Now that he had broken through to the empty god realm, Lu Ming could crush a level 6 empty god realm martial artist. Moreover, Lu Ming could even fight against a level 7 empty god realm martial artist. The higher the cultivation rank, the greater the gap between each rank. It was not easy to cross the gap. Chapter 2668. Swoosh! Lu Ming struck out with his spear, and a dazzling spear radiance shot towards his opponent. The opponent was shocked and tried his best to defend himself. However, it was useless as he was sent flying by Lu Ming. Even his sacred weapon was sent flying and his arms were broken. Kill! Subsequently, Lu Ming swept his long spear and blasted the existence of the Void God Realm level 6, killing him on the spot. You! The other two were shocked. Sizzle, sizzle at this moment. A ray of light shot towards Lu Ming at a terrifying speed. It was an arrow, a terrifying arrow. Without hesitation, Lu Ming swept his spear backwards and collided with the arrow. Boom! An intense explosion sounded out, as if a sun had exploded, forming shockwaves that rushed out in all directions. Buzz! The spear in Lu Ming's hand vibrated continuously. A terrifying force followed Lu Ming's spear and charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's figure drifted backward. He only stopped after retreating a few hundred meters. The attack power of this arrow is terrifying. Lu Ming felt his arm go numb, and he was shocked. Lad, you actually managed to block my attack. A shocked voice resounded. In the forest far away, 7 or 8 figures flashed and rushed towards them. One of them was the young man with the big bow that they had met previously. Oh my God, so many people! Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Previously, there were only 5 people, including the young man with the big bow. Now there were 5 or 6 more people, and some of them had terrifying auras that were not weaker than the young man with the big bow. Needless to say, from the murderous intent that permeated their bodies, they were from Fuko Seiko's faction and Huang Wu's faction. Lu Ming could barely contend with a level 7 ethereal god. However, it was impossible for him to defeat the other party. Most importantly, Lu Ming had been activating the battle word incantation to increase his combat strength by 3 times, but he kept failing. Shaoqing, let's go! Lu Ming did not hesitate and rushed towards Xian Yanqing and the others. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan had joined hands to fight the young man at 6th level of ethereal god realm. They had suppressed him completely. As for Qiuqiu, it was locked in a fierce battle with the 7th level empty god realm existence. Kill! He rushed to the side of Xian Yanqing and thrust his spear at the ethereal god stage 6 youth. The other party was shocked. However, he was already suppressed by Xian Yanqing and Wang Yao. How could he deal with Lu Ming? He was directly stabbed to death by Lu Ming's spear. Ah, you're courting death! After 2 people died, the bow-wielding young man and the others became furious. The bow-wielding young man once again shot out an arrow, but it was blocked by Lu Ming's spear. Go! Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Qiuqiu also abandoned their opponents and rushed towards the same direction. Chase, we must kill him. Kill this bastard! Kill! Furious roars came from behind as they rushed towards Lu Ming and the others. Our strength is still not enough. Lu Ming was a little depressed. There were too many people on the other side. If there were only 5 people from before, they could still fight. However, the number of people on the other side had doubled. If they fought, they would be doomed. In the blink of an eye, they had traveled a few thousand li. There were people in front. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly brightened. If they encountered other disciples of the sect, the people of the Floating Light sect would not be so bold as to attack them in public. Although they were no longer in the sect, the other party would still have some scruples. However, in the next moment, Lu Ming's face changed. This was because Lu Ming recognized one of the people in front of him. It was a well-dressed young man from the Tianhong Saint Sun's faction. Previously, he had asked Lu Ming to meet the young man with the surname Ing. His attitude was extremely bad. At this moment, the other party also saw Lu Ming and the others. "It's this kid." The well-dressed young man's eyes turned cold as he said, "This kid actually dared to reject the invitation of the Tianhong Saint Sun's faction. He will be a disaster sooner or later. Now is the time to get rid of him. Attack!" Immediately, the well-dressed young man and the others rushed towards Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming secretly complained. He did not expect to encounter the well-dressed young man and the others here. From the killing intent emitted from the other party, it was needless to say that they also wanted to kill him. "I only refuse to join the other party's faction, and they want to kill me?" Lu Ming's heart surged with anger. When his strength increases in the future, he must personally destroy the Tianhong Saint Sun's faction and Fuko Seiko's faction. "Kid, die!" A long sword appeared in the well-dressed young man's hand. He slashed out with a terrifying power. The well-dressed young man's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 7th Void God Realm. He was not far from the 8th Void God Realm. His strength was extremely shocking. Lu Ming and the others did not want to face the other party head-on. If they were entangled by the other party, they would be surrounded when the other party caught up. It would be troublesome. Once so many experts joined forces, they would be in danger. They immediately changed direction and rushed to the right. "You want to leave? Stay." The well-dressed young man led a few people and chased after Lu Ming and the others. Behind them, the young man with the big bow and the others also quickly chased after them. "Oh, floating light faction. This kid injured Huangwu. It's normal for these people to want to kill him." The well-dressed young man's heart jumped. He knew what was going on. "Let's join forces and kill this kid." The well-dressed young man sent a message to the young man with the big bow and the others. Okay, both parties immediately joined forces and chased after Lu Ming and the others. At this moment, a figure appeared in the sky. It was the deacon of the Tianhong faction. The old man was called Le Zhong. "This kid is actually fine. He's really lucky." A cold light flashed in Lu Zhong's eyes. He then looked behind him. In that direction, a streak of rainbow light was rapidly approaching. It was another deacon of the outer sanctum. "We can't let him ruin this. I'll go stop him," Le Zhong whispered and then flew towards the other deacon. "Le Zhong, what's going on? I feel that there's a big commotion here." The deacon, who came later, said, "It's nothing. Some disciples are chasing after some plant life. Don't worry. I'm here. Nothing will happen." Le Zhong smiled. "That's good." The deacon, who came later, did not suspect anything. He nodded and left. Lu Ming and the others ran for another 10,000 miles. They slowed down. After reaching this place, it became more and more remote. However, there were fewer plants, especially plant life. They almost did not encounter them. That is, suddenly they realized that there was an abyss in front of them. In the abyss, there was a blood-red mist constantly emerging. It seriously blocked their vision, and they could not see what was inside. "Let's go in." Lu Ming and the others did not stop and rushed into the abyss. In the abyss, there was a blood-red mist that blocked their vision. This way, they could use the environment here to get rid of the other party. However, when they flew above the abyss, their expressions changed greatly. In the abyss, there was a terrifying gravitational force that acted on them. This gravitational force was too strong, making it difficult for them to fly. They directly fell into the abyss. Chapter 2669. Lu Ming and the others fell into the abyss like meteors. The young man in luxurious clothes and the young man with the big bow were shocked and stopped in their tracks. They landed beside the abyss, their faces solemn, and they did not move forward. "This place is strange and evil. I feel uneasy." The young man in luxurious clothes whispered. Let's surround this place first. If that kid doesn't die, he will come out. We can kill him then." The young man with the big bow said. He was also uneasy. In the end, they did not dare to enter the abyss. They decided to stay here and wait for Lu Ming to come out. In fact, they were even sending voice transmissions to call for more helpers. This was because the abilities of Lu Ming and the rest made them uneasy. They were too powerful. They were simply unbelievably powerful. Not long after, more and more people from the two factions arrived. There were more than 10 Tier 7 ethereal god realm cultivators. However, there were no Tier 8 ethereal god realm cultivators. After all, these people had joined the sect in the last 3,000 years. It was good enough that they could reach Tier 7 ethereal god realm. Lu Zhong saw all of this. He turned a blind eye and left. After all, he was a deacon. It would not be good for him if others knew that he was indulging them on purpose. Lu Ming, Xian Yinqing, and Xian Yinjuan continued to fall. Luckily, the abyss was not very high. It was only about 1,000 meters deep. Boom! 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 The three of them adjusted their footing and landed heavily on the ground, creating 3 loud explosions. Then, the 3 of them looked around. This is Lu Ming and the other 2 were taken aback. There were piles of dead wood and rotten grass in the abyss. That is, suddenly Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He saw a green flash in a pile of dead wood. He walked over and used his divine power to absorb. A green object flew out. Wood crystal. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. It was a wood crystal with rich energy. Obviously, it was of a high level. "There's one here, too," Xie Nianqing exclaimed. She also found a wood crystal in a pile of rotten grass. Their eyes burned with passion. Could it be that many plant life forms had died in this place, and the wood crystals had all fallen here? If that was the case, wouldn't he be rich? Instantly, the 3 of them flashed and began to rummage through the piles of dead wood and rotten grass. Sure enough, they found more and more wood crystals. Those withered trees and rotten grass were clearly plant life forms. However, for some unknown reason, they had lost their essence energy and turned into withered trees and rotten grass, leaving only wood crystals behind. After a short while, they found more than a dozen wood crystals. Moreover, each of them had abundant energy. They were even more abundant than the wood crystals of the 5th level ethereal god realm plants they had killed before. The plant life forms that left these wood crystals were all above ethereal god realm. "We're rich. Haha, let's continue." The 3 of them were very excited and began to sweep through the bottom of the abyss. Who would have thought that there would be such a treasure ground at the bottom of the abyss? Moreover, the luxuriously dressed youth and the others didn't chase after them. Lu Ming guessed that they probably had some misgivings and didn't dare to chase after them. This way, they would be even more at ease to plunder. Rustle! Suddenly, a wave of rustling sound sounded out, making the few people's faces change. "Be careful! There are living beings approaching." Xian Yinjuan's face was solemn as she felt waves of dangerous aura. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing's faces were also solemn. Lu Ming even felt goosebumps and his heart tightened. It seems like the wood crystals here aren't that easy to obtain. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. The 3 of them formed a circle and carefully observed their surroundings. At this moment, the blood mist in the abyss became thicker. That rustling sound was getting closer and closer. Swoosh! Suddenly, a terrifying whistling sound was heard. The sound came from the ground. A few rays of blood red light shot out from the ground and pierced towards them. "Be careful!" Lu Ming shouted. His long spear appeared, and he swept it out. Dong! Lu Ming's long spear seemed to have hit leather, and a dong sound was heard. However, that red light wasn't blown away. Instead, it coiled around it. It was a tentacle, a blood-red tentacle that looked like the roots of a tree. At this moment, Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan also made their move. Their swords slashed and left sword marks on the blood-red roots. However, they didn't cut them open. These roots were extremely tough. Boom! Lu Ming directly activated 3 times his combat strength. His long spear shook violently. 13 layers of strength burst out, and finally the roots were blown away. Then Lu Ming put away his long spear and took out a battle sword. Against these roots, the battle sword was more practical. Break! Lu Ming held the sword with both hands and unleashed his full combat strength. The purplish gold sovereign power burst out along the battle sword and slashed at one of the roots. Puff! That root was directly cut off by Lu Ming. From the cut-off root, blood spurted out and blood qi filled the air. Squeak! That root seemed to be in pain. Not far away, squeak, squeak, squeak sounds could be heard. Then a few roots retracted, but in the next moment, a huge monster appeared from the blood mist. What the hell is this? Lu Ming gasped a breath of cold air at the sight of the huge creature. It was also an ancient tree. Its whole body was blood red. On the trunk, there were tentacle-like roots that were constantly waving. Its root system was very developed. There were at least a few hundred of them densely packed together. They also looked like blood-red poisonous snakes. One look at them would make one's scalp tingle. There was no doubt that this was a plant life, and an extremely terrifying one at that. This is an extremely rare, bloodthirsty plant life. It specializes in devouring the blood of other plant life and even the blood of other living beings. Be careful. Xie Ninjuan warned. This plant life, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. When he was in the primordial realm's divine wilderness continent, Lu Ming had also encountered such a plant life that specialized in devouring the blood of other living beings. However, it was far from being this powerful. This ancient tree moved towards Lu Ming and the others with its roots as its feet, emitting a terrifying aura. Swoosh! Swoosh! Then dozens of blood-red roots swept towards Lu Ming and the others with astonishing power. Crack! Cho flew out and bit down on one of the roots, directly biting it off. Lu Ming and the others also attacked. However, these roots were very hard and powerful. It was very difficult to cut them off. The most shocking thing was that after they cut off the roots, the other party's roots would quickly heal and attack them again. 3 times the combat strength. Erupt! As Lu Ming attacked, he constantly activated the battle formula, trying to trigger 3 times the combat strength. Boom! After dozens of times, a powerful force emerged from Lu Ming's body. 3 times the combat strength, successfully triggered. Chapter 2670. After dozens of activations, Lu Ming finally succeeded in activating the battle character's secret art to double his fighting strength. Lu Ming's body emitted a strong fighting spirit. Lu Ming's fighting spirit soared to the heavens as his fighting spirit soared. Puff! Puff! The battle sword slashed across the sky, and 2 blood-red roots were directly cut in half, blood splattering everywhere. Kill! Lu Ming attacked rapidly, his battle sword slashing out continuously. At this moment, his fighting strength had reached its peak. Another few tentacles were cut in half. Asterisk chi. Asterisk the blood-red ancient tree seemed to be in pain. Hundreds of roots danced crazily, letting out ear-piercing screeches. Then, hundreds of tentacles wrapped around Lu Ming, wanting to wrap Lu Ming to death and then devour Lu Ming's blood. However, Cho transformed into a semicircular shield, blocking in front of Lu Ming. Those roots bombarded Cho's body. Cho's body was like mercury, sinking in from the bombardment. The next moment, it returned to its original state. Moreover, Cho was a metallic life form and had no blood. The blood-red ancient tree couldn't do anything to Cho. Dark Saint Light Technique. At this moment, Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan joined forces and activated the Dark Saint Light Technique. Black and white light intertwined, forming a Dark Saint Light cage that enveloped the blood-red ancient tree. Good chance, Cho smash! Lu Ming shouted and pounced towards the blood-red ancient tree like a rock. At the same time, Chiu Chiu turned into a huge metal ball and smashed towards the blood-red ancient tree. Asterisk chi chi chi. Asterisk the blood-red ancient tree crazily waved hundreds of roots and bombarded the dark saint light cage, causing the dark saint light cage to shake nonstop. In addition, blood-red thorns emerged from the blood-red ancient tree's body and flew in all directions like a hedgehog. Chiu Chiu was the first to pass through the dark saint light cage and smash down, knocking away some of the blood-red thorns and roots. Lu Ming followed closely behind Chiu Chiu and slashed out with his sword. Puff! Lu Ming had left a several-meter-long sword wound on the blood-colored ancient tree. Blood gushed out like a fountain. The aura of the blood-colored ancient tree also weakened rapidly. Again slash! Lu Ming slashed out with his sword again. This time, the ancient blood-colored tree was completely split into two halves. The blood-colored ancient tree was split in half and fell to the ground. Blood flowed all over the ground, releasing a nauseating smell. Phew! Lu Ming let out a long sigh. This blood-colored ancient tree was very terrifying. They had to join forces and use everything they had to kill it. Lu Ming, be careful! Suddenly, Xia Nianqing cried out anxiously. He rushed towards Lu Ming and set up a sword screen in front of him. Bang! An exceptionally thick, blood-red root slammed heavily into the sword screen in front of Xia Nianqing. The sword screen instantly collapsed. Xia Nianqing was thrown back like a kite with a broken string, blood spurting out of his mouth. Xiao Qing! Lu Ming turned pale with fright. He moved and caught Xia Nianqing by the waist. Xia Nianqing's face was pale. He had been seriously injured by the attack just now. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Rustling sounds came from both sides of the abyss. Then, one after another, huge creatures appeared in their line of sight. They were all blood-colored ancient trees. At a glance, there were at least a few dozen of them. One of them was exceptionally tall. It was twice as tall as the other blood-colored ancient trees. Its thick roots danced and crackled. So many. Lu Ming, Xia Nianqing, and Xia Nianjuan felt their scalps go numb. It was already difficult to deal with one blood-colored ancient tree. How were they going to deal with so many of them? Moreover, there was a terrifying gravitational force in this abyss. They couldn't fly, even if they wanted to. There was no way they could escape. Are we going to die here today? A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind. He felt indignant. Xia Nianjuan's body emitted a holy light. She was also unwilling. She still had something important to do. She couldn't die here. She was going to fight with her life. Squeak, squeak, squeak! Dozens of blood-colored ancient trees let out ear-piercing screeches. Their roots danced like a group of demons. It was a terrifying scene. Swoosh! The tallest and thickest blood-colored ancient tree attacked. A blood-colored root as thick as a bucket whipped towards Lu Ming and the others. Break! Xia Nianjuan shouted. Her entire body seemed to have become one with her sword. She turned into a holy sword and slashed at the root. Boom! Sword chi scattered and the holy light shattered. Xia Nianjuan was sent flying. When she landed on the ground, she trembled and spat out a mouthful of blood. That giant blood-colored ancient tree was too strong. Xia Nianjuan couldn't block it at all. Whoosh! The thick root continued to whip towards them. Let me! Lu Ming shouted and rushed out. He circulated his sovereign god force to the maximum. The battle sword in his hand emitted a dazzling purple-gold light. He slashed at the thick root. However, the result was the same as before. Lu Ming felt a terrifying force rush towards him. He was forced to retreat. He couldn't block it. He couldn't block it at all. Creak, creak, creak! Dozens of blood-colored ancient trees waved their roots and screeched. They slowly closed in on Lu Ming. They weren't in a hurry to attack. They seemed to be toying with Lu Ming and the others. The dozens of blood-colored ancient trees formed a circle. Their roots danced like a cage, completely trapping Lu Ming and the others. There was no way to escape. Lu Ming. Xian Yanqing's small hand tightly grasped Lu Ming's big hand. Little ball, they can't do anything to you. Take the opportunity to escape later. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Little Ball. Crack, crack. Little Ball's round body spun with all its might. It had a look of rejection. Creak, creak, creak. At this moment, the largest blood-colored ancient tree screeched crazily. It seemed to be giving the final order. Then, all the blood-colored ancient trees attacked together. Tens of thousands of roots wrapped around Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the others were about to be drowned by the endless blood-colored roots. At this moment, the portrait of Jingyu in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness moved. It flew out of Lu Ming's sea of consciousness and floated above Lu Ming's head. It emitted a dazzling purple gold light that enveloped Lu Ming and the others like a light shield. Boom, boom, boom. Those tentacles bombarded the light shield, but were all blocked by the light shield. Lu Ming was extremely surprised. Jing Yu's portrait actually moved at this moment. In the past, Lu Ming had encountered fatal danger, but Jing Yu's portrait had never moved. Why did it move now? Could it be related to my breakthrough to the empty god realm? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Baya had once said that Jing Yu's portrait had layers of restrictions. It could only be unlocked when Lu Ming's cultivation reached a certain level. Perhaps Jing Yu's portrait would only move when Lu Ming's cultivation had broken through to the empty god realm. At this moment, the eyes of Jing Yu's portrait lit up like two stars and a supreme aura burst out. Creak, creak, creak. Those blood-colored ancient trees seemed to be extremely frightened. They screeched and waved their roots. In the blink of an eye, not a single tree was left. Chapter 2671. In the blink of an eye, all of the ancient blood-colored trees were gone. Lu Ming and the others were dumbfounded. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan looked at Jing Yu's portrait in astonishment. At this moment, the light on Jing Yu's portrait dimmed and flew back into Lu Ming's knowledge sea. At the same time, a piece of information came out from Jing Yu's portrait. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. The information that came out from Jing Yu's portrait was a divine art and 2 divine skills. Universe, myriad Tao art, apocalyptic 3 strikes, and 9 layers crimson gold armor. Universe, myriad Tao art was a divine art, apocalyptic 3 strikes was an offensive divine skill, and 9 layers crimson gold armor was a defensive divine skill. Other than these, there was no other information. Lu Ming swore on his life origin that he would do something for Jingyu, but he did not reveal any information. Could it be that my cultivation is not high enough, so he didn't reveal any information to prevent me from dying in vain? Lu Ming could not help but guess. However, there was no time to think about it now. Their priority was to search for the wood crystals. Let's collect the wood crystals first, Lu Ming said. Immediately, the group gathered the wood crystals at the bottom of the abyss. There were so many ancient, blood-colored trees living in the bottom of the abyss. Obviously, many plant life forms had died under the ancient, blood-colored trees, leaving only wood crystals and broken branches and leaves. The group gathered the wood crystals along one side of the abyss. After walking for dozens of miles, they arrived at the end of the abyss and saw a huge cave with blood-colored mist coming out from it. It was obvious that some ancient, blood-colored trees were hiding in this cave, but they did not dare to come out. It seems like these ancient, blood-colored trees are really afraid. Lu Ming smiled. Then they returned to the other side of the abyss to collect the wood crystals. After dozens of miles, they arrived at the end of the abyss. There was also a huge cave here, and those ancient blood-colored trees did not dare to come out. A big harvest. Thinking of the wood crystals they collected this time, Lu Ming's face was full of smiles. They had collected several hundred wood crystals, and all of them were of high quality. It was definitely a great harvest. If they were able to refine them all, their cultivation would surely improve significantly. Those people are probably waiting up there. Why don't we refine the wood crystals here first, then kill our way out? Xian Yanqing said, his eyes flashing with cold-killing intent. All right. Lu Ming nodded. He also wanted to take a good look at the new divine arts and techniques he had obtained. Immediately, the three of them sat down cross-legged in the middle of the abyss. In this position, if those blood-colored ancient trees were to launch a sneak attack, they would be able to detect them in time and have time to react. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan each took out a wood crystal and devoured it. Qiu, help us observe our surroundings. Lu Ming wasn't in a hurry to refine the wood crystals. First, he had Qiu stand guard for them. Then he carefully examined the newly obtained divine arts and skills. First, Lu Ming looked at the universe, myriad Tao technique. Lu Ming focused, and the universe, myriad Tao technique became clear in his mind. Lines of words and even pictures appeared in Lu Ming's mind. A short while later, Lu Ming finished reading the universe, myriad Tao technique. This, Lu Ming was stunned by the universe, myriad Tao technique. The universe, myriad Tao technique was a divine art that specialized in cultivating God force. Its level of profoundness exceeded Lu Ming's expectations. If one cultivated this divine art to the peak, they would be able to cultivate sovereign God force. However, this was only the foundation. After cultivating sovereign God force, one could cultivate other divine arts and techniques. Moreover, the God force cultivated from other divine arts and techniques could coexist with sovereign God force. The most shocking thing was that other divine arts and techniques didn't need to be cultivated to the peak. As long as one could cultivate a strand of God force, there was no need to continue cultivating. This was because that strand of God force would increase along with the sovereign God force. For example, if Lu Ming cultivated the universe, myriad Tao technique, to the peak and cultivated another divine art, he would be able to ignite another divine flame beside his original divine flame. Every time he cultivated a different divine art, he would be able to ignite another divine flame. These divine flames would increase along with the sovereign God force. Heaven-defying, this was simply heaven-defying. One had to know that an average person could only cultivate one divine flame. According to the universe, myriad Tao technique, one could cultivate an unlimited number of divine flames as long as they had different divine arts and techniques. Lu Ming was amazed, and his heart was burning with passion. This divine art was truly heaven-defying. There was a paragraph at the end of the universe, myriad Tao technique, which was Jing Yu's annotation. Jing Yu explained, the universe 10,000 Daos technique was something Jing Yu had obtained from a forbidden ground. Jing Yu had relied on the universe 10,000 Daos technique to control sovereign God force. Jing Yu wasn't like Lu Ming, who hadn't cultivated any divine arts and techniques to control sovereign God force. Let's start cultivating. Lu Ming couldn't wait to see the profundity of the universe, myriad Tao technique. The universe, myriad Tao technique, was divided into 12 levels. Only by cultivating to the 12th level would one be able to control sovereign God force. Lu Ming closed his eyes and started cultivating according to the manual. A few minutes later, Lu Ming opened his eyes. He had succeeded in cultivating the first level. The speed of his cultivation was shocking. Continue. Lu Ming continued cultivating. After a while, Lu Ming reached the second level, then the third level. In just half an hour, Lu Ming had reached the 6th level. This was very normal. When one cultivated the universe 10,000 Tao Sutra to the 12th level, one would be able to control the sovereign's divine power. However, Lu Ming had already mastered the sovereign's divine power. When he cultivated the universe 10,000 Tao Sutra, it was as though he was riding on a rocket. Lu Ming realized that as his cultivation of the universe, myriad Tao technique deepened. The God force in his body became stronger. He was slowly approaching the second level of the void God realm. Moreover, Lu Ming had become more proficient in using the sovereign God force. Many of the profundities of the sovereign God force were unearthed by Lu Ming. In the past, Lu Ming didn't have a direction when cultivating the sovereign God force. He had to rely on himself and study Jing Yu's portrait to advance. Now, with the universe myriad Tao technique, Lu Ming had a direction and a path. This way, he would be able to unleash the profundities of the sovereign God force. Continue. Lu Ming immersed himself in cultivating. As he neared the end, his speed slowed down. However, 3 days later, Lu Ming still managed to cultivate the universe myriad Tao technique to the 12th level. Boom! When Lu Ming reached the 12th level of the universe myriad Tao technique, the divine fire in his dantian burned fiercely, and its volume increased by a notch. The God force in his body surged and became stronger. He had broken through. His cultivation had broken through to the second level of the void God realm. Chapter 2672. He hadn't refined any God crystals or wood crystals. He had only cultivated the universe myriad Tao's technique to the 12th level, and his cultivation had already made a breakthrough. Moreover, Lu Ming felt that using the sovereign's God force was much easier than before. According to the records of the universe of myriad Tao arts, I have already cultivated to the 12th level, so I can cultivate other divine skills and techniques. I can ignite another divine fire near the original divine fire. Unfortunately, there are no other divine skills and techniques. Lu Ming sighed. At the same time, he began to think about how to obtain a few divine techniques to cultivate after returning to the sect. There were also different levels of divine arts and techniques. They were divided into king grade, saint grade, and divine grade, 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 divine technique. If one cultivated a king grade divine art to its peak, one would be able to cultivate king grade divine power. When one cultivated a saint grade divine art to its peak, one could cultivate saint grade divine power. As for divine grade techniques, once cultivated to the peak, one would be able to cultivate divine grade divine power. The higher the level, the higher the value. For the Qin heavenly 13 sects, each of them had saint grade divine arts and arts. But for each of them, they were considered the ultimate treasures of their sect. Only those who were truly core members would have the qualifications to cultivate them. As for the 3 overlords, they all had their own divine grade divine arts. In addition, the Kongshin school was the leader of the top 10 sects, and it was said that they had several types of saint grade divine arts. These sacred grade and divine grade divine techniques were too precious. Naturally, Lu Ming could not get his hands on them now. However, those king grade divine techniques were not that precious. It was still possible for him to get his hands on them. At the very least, in a major power like the Qin heavenly 13 sects, there should be quite a few royal grade cultivation arts. Although it was only at the king grade, if Lu Ming cultivated it and ignited another divine fire, his strength would definitely be stronger. The key was that the heaven and earth myriad Tao art was too profound. Lu Ming did not need to cultivate to the peak of other divine arts and techniques. He only needed to cultivate a strand of divine power. Under the guidance of the heaven and earth myriad Tao art, he would naturally be able to achieve the corresponding level of divine power. Boom! Boom! At this moment, Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan simultaneously emitted 2 powerful auras. Both of them had broken through. The speed of refining the wood crystals was too fast. After a few days of refining, The two of them had broken through from level 3 empty god realm to level 4 empty god realm. Soon their auras calmed down. However, there were still a lot of wood crystals left, and the two of them continued to refine them. Let's look at the other two divine skills. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. He wasn't in a hurry to refine the wood crystal and raise his cultivation. During this period of time, his cultivation had been continuously making breakthroughs. He had to stop and stabilize himself. Otherwise, his foundation would be unstable. He was different from Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan. Xian Yinjuan's past life and present life had fused together. It was as if he had been reborn from his past life. His cultivation level was far higher than his current cultivation level. As long as she had a large amount of resources, her cultivation level would increase rapidly. Xian Yinqing had devoured her past life in this life. However, she had inherited all the memories of her past life. Although her personality and will were from her current life, she had inherited the memories of her past life. However, since she had inherited the memories of her previous life, her horizons and martial will were still very high. Although she couldn't be compared to Xian Yinjuan, her martial will was still extraordinary. Hence, even if she were to improve rapidly, her cultivation base wouldn't be unstable. Next, Lu Ming took a closer look at the two types of divine skills. Level 9 Divine Skills. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Both divine skills were level 9 divine skills. This meant that these two divine skills could be cultivated to level 9. Level 9 divine skills were extremely rare and precious. The more one cultivated them, the more powerful they would be. For example, the ancestor of techniques, Kong Ji and Situ Haonan, only possessed level 3 divine skills. This was a complete divine skill, not something an incomplete divine skill could compare to. It was much more powerful. Level 9 Crimson Gold Armor was a defensive divine skill. After successfully cultivating it, a crimson gold armor would form on the surface of one's body. Its defensive power was shocking. The more one cultivated it, the stronger the defensive power. There was even a strong recoil force. If one cultivated it to level 9, its power would be unimaginable. Destructive 3 Strikes was an offensive divine skill. There were a total of 3 moves: Sky Splitter, Moon Slash, and Starburst. Each of the 3 moves was stronger than the previous one. However, each move was harder to cultivate than the previous one. When one cultivated it to level 1, one could use Sky Splitter. When one cultivated it to level 4, one could use the power of Moon Slash. As for Starburst, one had to cultivate it to level 7 before they could use it. Can I cultivate it now? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Logically speaking, one had to be at least a peak empty god to be able to use the divine skills. This was because using the divine skills consumed a shocking amount of divine power. However, Lu Ming controlled the sovereign divine power. It couldn't be compared to other divine powers. It was very strong. Perhaps he could use some of its power. Since I can't raise my cultivation now, I'll cultivate it first. Lu Ming made up his mind. First, he began to comprehend the apocalyptic 3 Strikes. There was no doubt that the divine skills were very profound. Fortunately, Lu Ming had previously cultivated an incomplete divine skill. Moreover, once he cultivated it to a high level, it would be easier. Even so, Lu Ming spent a full half a month before he finally reached the beginner level of the apocalyptic 3 Strikes. The destructive 3 Strikes was a pure offensive technique. It could be used with many weapons, such as swords, sabers, spears, axes, etc. Lu Ming took out his spear and quickly circulated his divine power. His entire body became sharp. Xiao! The spear suddenly pierced forward. A spear light shot out from his body and hit the stone wall on one side of the abyss. Poof! It was like the spear had pierced through tofu. A small hole appeared in the stone wall. It was so deep that one couldn't see the bottom. What power! Lu Ming was pleasantly surprised. However, he immediately pulled a long face. This was because he felt that the divine power in his body was almost exhausted. Using the divine skill consumed too much divine power. Although he had mastered the sovereign divine power, he was only at rank 2 empty God realm. It was too much for him to use the divine skill. If it was someone else who had not mastered the divine grade divine power and was only at rank 2 empty God realm, they would not be able to use the divine skill. Let's recover first. Lu Ming walked to the side and took out some divine crystals. He started to absorb the divine qi in the divine crystals to recover his divine power. After recovering a little, Lu Ming felt that Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan's aura had increased. They were about to break through again. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. In the past half a month, Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan had refined most of the wood crystals that were given to them. Finally, they started to break through again. Soon they succeeded in breaking through, and their auras stabilized. Rank 5 empty God realm. This speed of breaking through was shocking. How long had it been since they came to the lush forest? This lush forest is really a blessing. Lu Ming smiled. This was a blessing for the new disciples. As long as they had the strength, they would be able to obtain enough wood crystals, and their strength would skyrocket in a short period of time. Lu Ming continued to devour the divine crystals. Soon, his divine power had recovered to its peak. Now let's go up. Xian Yinqing walked over and said, I have the same idea. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Chapter 2673. Now that their strength had skyrocketed, it was time to go up and settle the score. Lu Ming hoped that the young man in luxurious clothes and the others were still up there. However, the gravity of the abyss was very strong. They could not fly up directly, so they could only climb up along the walls. Above the abyss, the young man in luxurious clothes, the young man with the big bow, and the others were still waiting there. It's been so many days, but I haven't seen them come up. I guess they're dead down there. Someone sneered. This abyss feels extremely evil and dangerous. I guess they're all dead down there. Let's go. Someone else said. Time was precious. They could only stay in Zhu Forest for 3 months, but they had already waited here for more than 20 days. Their hearts were bleeding. They could not afford to waste time. Let's wait for another 3 days. If they still haven't come out in 3 days, we'll leave. The young man in luxurious clothes said, Look, there's someone there. Suddenly, someone shouted and pointed to the edge of the abyss. Everyone looked over and saw a few people climbing up from the edge of the abyss. Those people were naturally Lu Ming, Xian Yinqing, and Xian Yinjuan. It's that kid. They're still alive. The young man with the big bow had a cold look in his eyes. They're not dead, but they're dead for sure now. The young man in luxurious clothes said coldly. A powerful and cold aura locked onto Lu Ming and the others. They're still here, and their numbers have increased by a lot. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with cold, murderous intent. He pressed his arm and jumped up into the abyss. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan came out of the abyss and stood beside Lu Ming. Finally, you can't hold it in anymore. Fortunately, we didn't leave. Hee kid, this is fate. You're destined to die. The young man in luxurious clothes said ferociously. An extremely sharp, long sword appeared in his hand. Divine power surged as he stepped toward Lu Ming. You're right. Fortunately, you didn't leave. I didn't have to look for you. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up slightly. A long spear appeared in his hand. You still want to resist? I'll kill you in 3 moves. The young man in luxurious clothes shouted coldly. His body burst out, and a terrifying sword light shot towards Lu Ming like a bolt of lightning. Whoa! Lu Ming directly swept out with his gun. The moment he made his move, Lu Ming activated the battle character secret art to double his battle prowess. The long spear was like an enraged dragon, bringing with it an endless gale that swept towards the luxuriously dressed youth. Boom! A terrifying explosion rang out. The luxuriously dressed youth's sword light directly collapsed. Lu Ming's spear struck the luxuriously dressed youth's long sword. The terrifying strength caused the long sword to bend, and the berserk strength bombarded the luxuriously dressed youth. Kacha! The sound of bones breaking could be heard from the young man's body. Half of his body exploded, and he was sent flying like a cannonball. He collided with a level 6 empty god realm young man. That young man spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying as well. What? Everyone on the other side widened their eyes in shock. One move. In just one move, the luxuriously dressed youth was defeated and heavily injured. How could this be? Over 20 days ago, many people had exchanged blows with Lu Ming. Lu Ming was not as powerful as they thought he was. The young man with the big bow felt chills all over his body. He was almost scared to death. He felt it the most. When he had first come to Zhu Forest and fought with Lu Ming's strength was not as powerful as before. He was no match for him at all. In the end, Lu Ming escaped once. When they met again, Lu Ming's strength had increased by a large margin. Now, Lu Ming's strength had increased by a large margin. This speed of improvement was too shocking. Kill! After severely injuring the luxuriously dressed youth with one move, Lu Ming shouted. He became one with his spear and charged towards his opponent like a bolt of lightning. At the same time, Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan also charged towards their opponents. Boom! Lu Ming swept out with his spear. The terrifying spear radiance was like a mountain, pressing down on the few young men. Bam! Bam! Some of these young men were at rank 5 Empty God Realm, while some were at rank 6 Empty God Realm. They were directly hit by Lu Ming and exploded in the air. The scene was horrifying. Let's work together and kill him, the young man with the big bow shouted. There were around 30 of them, and more than 10 of them were at rank 7 Empty God Realm. At this moment, a few rank 7 Empty God Realm cultivators charged towards Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. Die! Xian Yanjuan shouted coldly. His body was covered in a holy light, and a holy light sword was slashed out. The trajectory was mysterious. Puff! A rank 7 Empty God Realm cultivator was directly killed by Xian Yanjuan. He was unable to resist at all. At the same time, Xian Yanqing also killed a rank 7 Empty God Realm cultivator. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan's cultivation had broken through 2 levels and reached rank 5 Empty God Realm. The 2 of them did not lack suitable divine skills, and their combat skills were even more ingenious. As their cultivation increased, their strength would also become stronger. If they were weak, they would not be able to use many of their skills. The stronger they were, the more skills they would have. At this moment, it was not difficult for them to kill a rank 7 Empty God Realm cultivator. It was not difficult for Lu Ming either. When Lu Ming was at rank 1 Empty God Realm, he could activate the battle character skill to double his combat strength and fight against a rank 7 Empty God Realm cultivator. Later on, he cultivated the universe myriad Dao technique and was able to use the sovereign's divine power better. His cultivation had also reached rank 2 Empty God Realm, and it was easy for him to deal with a rank 7 Empty God Realm cultivator. Swoosh! 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 In an instant, more than a dozen attacks were directed at Lu Ming. Sovereign! Lu Ming bellowed as he circulated his sovereign's divine power. All of a sudden, when the attacks neared Lu Ming, they seemed to have been dominated by him. All of them deviated from their trajectories and rushed past Lu Ming. What? How could this be? The sovereign's divine power. He has mastered the sovereign's divine power. Someone shouted. Everyone's heart shook violently. The sovereign's divine power. Lu Ming had mastered the sovereign's divine, great divine power. As far as they knew, no one in the younger generation of the Kongxian school had mastered the divine, great divine power. Only the 3 overlords had peerless geniuses who had mastered the divine, great divine power. Monster, a peerless monster. Kill! Lu Ming would not let go of this opportunity and thrust out his long spear. Puff! Puff! Spear light swept out, and in an instant, 5 to 6 geniuses were killed by Lu Ming. Even a rank 7 empty god realm cultivator was killed. Let's go, we must report this news. This person has mastered the divine grade divine power, and he will definitely become the Holy Sun's enemy in the future. We must let the Holy Sun know. The young man with the big bow and the others wanted to retreat. Today none of you will leave, Lu Ming said coldly. His killing intent surged like a tide, and he was like a god of slaughter as he charged towards these people. At the same time, he released Qiu Qiu to restrain his opponents. Chapter 2674. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan also started a merciless massacre. The other party could not defend themselves against their attacks. One by one they were killed, and they would stay here forever. Demons, you are demons! You wantonly killed your fellow disciples. You have violated the rules of the sect. You will be punished. The remaining people shouted. Lu Ming sneered. Previously, these people had threatened to kill them, and Lu Ming and the rest had almost died in their hands. Now, they wanted to use the sect rules to suppress them. When they were chasing after Lu Ming and the rest, where did the sect rules go? Ridiculous. Bam! Lu Ming attacked without mercy. He waved his long spear and sent a level 7 empty god realm expert flying, severely injuring him. In the blink of an eye, there were only 6 or 7 people left, and they were all level 7 empty god realm experts. Split up and run. The young man with the big bow shouted in fear and shot an arrow at Lu Ming. An arrow was shot at Lu Ming, but it was deflected by Lu Ming's spear. Stay here, Lu Ming shouted. At this moment, there was a sudden burst of powerful energy in his body. The battle word tactic had successfully tripled his combat ability. Lu Ming's ability had increased tremendously. Swoosh! Lu Ming dashed out and thrust his spear. A young man at level 7 of the Void God realm turned pale with fright and tried his best to block the attack. However, there was no way he could block the attack. He was pierced through by Lu Ming's long spear. The long spear vibrated and the young man was torn into pieces. Buzz! Lu Ming swept across, and another level 7 empty God realm youth was killed by Lu Ming. At this moment, Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan each killed another person. There were only 3 people left on the other side. Now it's your turn. Lu Ming approached the young man with the big bow at lightning speed. The youth with the big bow was scared to death. He kept shooting arrows at Lu Ming, but they were deflected by Lu Ming. In the next moment, Lu Ming threw out his long spear. The long spear, which was a lower rank 9 divine weapon, turned into a flash of lightning and pierced through the youth with the big bow, nailing him to an ancient tree. Ah! The youth was still alive, and he let out a shrill scream. Lu Ming, go ahead and kill him. Saint Son of Fleeting Light will avenge me. Your ability is not worth mentioning in the eyes of Saint Son of Fleeting Light. No, any powerful cultivator from Fleeting Light's faction can kill you. Your woman will also have to die. The young man with the big bow knew that he was going to die. He roared and cursed before he died. If that Fuko Seiko dares to provoke me, I will kill him sooner or later. Rest in peace. Lu Ming said coldly and killed the youth with a palm strike. Pulling out his long spear, Lu Ming returned to the battlefield. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan had caught up with the remaining 2 youths and killed them in a short while. Swoosh! Lu Ming moved and appeared beside one of the youths. This was the youth in luxurious clothes. The youth in luxurious clothes was the first to attack Lu Ming. He was severely injured by Lu Ming's spear. Half of his body was smashed, and he laid on the ground, unable to move. He had witnessed the entire scene. At this moment, he was so scared that he wet his pants. When he first met Lu Ming was just a demigod ant. He did not put him in his eyes at all. He never expected Lu Ming to be so terrifying. Don't kill me, don't kill me. As long as you spare my dog life, I will obey your orders in the future. I will be your dog. Please let me go. The youth in luxurious clothes screamed in horror. I don't need a dog. You can go in peace." Lu Ming said coldly. He waved his spear and ended the youth's life. "Let's get out of here, quickly," Lu Ming said after taking away everyone's storage rings. The commotion just now was too big. If others found out that Lu Ming had killed more than 30 disciples of the same sect, they would be in trouble. Their figures flickered and they left the place. Moments after Lu Ming's group disappeared, a rainbow light flashed in the sky and a figure appeared. This figure was the outer court deacon, Lezhong. How could this be? Lu Zhong looked at the corpses on the ground and his eyes widened in disbelief. What's going on? These wounds are sword wounds and spear wounds. They were killed by someone. Who is it? Who is it? Lu Zhong roared with a ferocious look in his eyes. Could it be that Lu Ming kid? Lu Zhong thought of Lu Ming. That was because the youth in luxurious clothes and the others had been waiting here to block Lu Ming. He knew all of this. However, were Lu Ming's group that strong? Damn bastards. I won't let this matter rest. Lu Zhong growled. His figure flashed, and he left the place. The following days were relatively peaceful. With Qiuqiu's help, Lu Ming's group obtained a lot of wood crystals from Jiwu Forest. Although it couldn't be compared to the Abyss, it was not bad. The 3-month deadline was almost up. Lu Ming's group headed out of Jiwu Forest. Figures constantly rushed out of Jiwu Forest and arrived outside the forest. Outside, the outer court elder stood in the air. Clearly, he had been waiting here. Haha, how was your harvest this time? Not bad. Nestle, you actually broke through a tier. Many people met and chatted with each other. Many people had smiles on their faces. This time, most of them had gained quite a lot. Hunting plant life and obtaining wood crystals could increase one's cultivation base very quickly. Many people even directly broke through a tier in their cultivation base, which saved them many years of time. Soon, almost all the disciples who went in came out. However, the number of people was much smaller. When they entered, there were more than 600 people, but now there were only about 500 people left. About 100 people were missing. Obviously, these people had all died in Jiwu Forest and became nutrients for the plant life. At this moment, 4 rainbow lights flew out of Jiwu Forest. They were the 4 outer court deacons. They had brought up the rear and only came out now. As soon as Lezhong came out, he glanced at Lu Ming. A powerful aura suddenly pressed down on Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming felt like he was being crushed by a divine mountain. His body shook violently and he kept retreating. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. What are you doing? Xian Yinqing shouted, standing beside Lu Ming. The others, including the outer court elder and the 3 outer court deacons, also looked at Lezhong in astonishment. Brat, you killed your fellow disciples. Your methods are ruthless. Today, I will clean up the sect and kill you. Lu Zhong shouted. His killing intent was cold. Without any explanation, he sent a palm strike at Lu Ming. He did not give Lu Ming a chance to defend himself. A terrifying palm print pressed down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming's face changed greatly. Lu Zhong's cultivation base had definitely reached the true god realm, and it might even be a high-level true god. It was too terrifying. Lu Ming could not resist at all. The difference in cultivation base was too big. It was not something talent could make up for. Chapter 2675. What's going on? The outer elder said with a frown. Elder, this kid is insane. He killed dozens of his fellow disciples in Jiwu Forest. He deserves to die. Lu Zhong said coldly. What? These words caused many people to be shocked. Lu Ming killed dozens of his fellow disciples? Was that true? You're slandering me. Lu Ming wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stepped forward. He stared at Lezhong with bright eyes and said, Deacon Lezhong, do you have any evidence that I killed my fellow disciples? You're the ones who killed those disciples. How dare you quibble? Lezhong said coldly. What quibble? I'm asking you, do you have any evidence? Did you see it with your own eyes, or do you have other witnesses? Lu Ming said loudly. Lu Zhong was speechless for a moment. Although he was sure that Lu Ming and the others killed them, where was the evidence? So you don't have any evidence. Lu Ming raised his voice. Since you don't have any evidence, why did Deacon Lezhong accuse me of killing him? Why didn't they die in the hands of the plant life? Why didn't they be killed by someone else? Lu Ming asked a few questions in a row and pressed on. How dare you quibble? Lu Zhong roared and stared at Lu Ming like an angry lion. It was hard for him to defend himself. He couldn't possibly say that those dead disciples had died because they surrounded Lu Ming and that Lu Ming was the murderer. But could he say that? We've been hunting plant life in Jiwu Forest. I didn't expect to be slandered like this. Elder Lezhong, I want to know why. Did Huang Wu ask you to slander me? Or are you from Tianhong's faction? I've offended both of them. Lu Ming said loudly. His voice spread throughout the place. Oh, I understand. I understand too. Lu Ming offended Tianhong's faction, and Deacon Lezhong is from Tianhong's faction. Many people's hearts skipped a beat, as if they had suddenly realized something. Lu Zhong was speechless by Lu Ming's question. There must be no evidence. Lu Ming had offended Tianhong's faction, and Lu Zhong happened to be from Tianhong's faction. Many people thought that Lu Zhong was taking the opportunity to take revenge and slander Lu Ming. This brought Lu Zhong's teeth. Maybe. Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. Initially, he was just spouting nonsense to test the other party. Seeing that the other party did not say anything, he knew that he had guessed correctly. The outer sect elder spoke up. He had a rough idea of what was going on. However, this was a battle between factions. He didn't want to get too involved, so he tried to smooth things over. With a wave of his hand, a divine artifact combat sword appeared. It grew rapidly, and he landed on the combat sword. Lu Zhong glanced at Lu Ming coldly and landed on the combat sword as well. Then the others landed on the combat sword one after another. The combat sword turned into a rainbow light and disappeared. Not long after, they returned to the outer sect area. After returning, Lu Ming separated from Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan. He returned to his room and cultivated in seclusion. He had a lot of things to do next. On one hand, he had to refine his divine power and strengthen his foundation. On the other hand, he had to comprehend the battle character formula. The battle character in his sea of consciousness was unfathomable. Lu Ming felt that he had only scratched the surface. There was endless potential waiting for him to unearth. Now, the probability of him triggering 3 times his combat strength was 1 in 10. The probability would only increase as his comprehension of the battle character formula deepened. In addition, Lu Ming still had 2 divine skills, the 3 strikes of annihilation and 9-fold crimson gold armor. Lu Ming felt that he did not have enough time. In the following time, Lu Ming completely devoted himself to cultivation. In Huang Wu's courtyard. Damn it, damn it, damn it! Huang Wu roared. This time he had invited many experts from the Floating Light sect to kill Lu Ming in the forest. But now, he received news that those experts were all dead. These people went to kill Lu Ming together, but they all died at the same time. It could not be a coincidence. Huang Wu seriously suspected that it was Lu Ming's doing. But was Lu Ming that strong? Senior brother Huang Wu, that kid Lu Ming is very strange. Should we ask senior brother Huang Wen? A lackey asked carefully. My big brother has been in seclusion recently. Let's wait until my big brother comes out. Let that kid live a little longer. Huang Wu said coldly. At the same time, the people from the Tianhong sect were also furious. Lu Zhong brought back news that they suspected that the young man in luxurious clothes and others from the Tianhong sect had died in the hands of Lu Ming. A storm was brewing. In the outer sect area, where the female disciples lived, there were beautiful mountains and clear waters and countless strange peaks. In a hidden valley, Xian Yinjuan's figure flickered. Runes constantly appeared from his hands and landed on the ground. On the ground, a strange formation was faintly discernible. After a few hours, Xie Ninjuan finally stopped. He exhaled slightly and then formed a seal with both hands. With a light shout, the formation flickered and condensed into a fine ray of light. It shot into the sky and disappeared in an instant. Its speed was unimaginably fast. I hope I can receive it. Staying here will make my cultivation progress too slow. It's not a long-term plan. Xie Nianjuan muttered. He then sat cross-legged and quietly cultivated. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. On this day, Xian Yinjuan suddenly opened his eyes. In front of Xian Yinjuan, the space rippled and a gray-robed old man suddenly appeared. Uncle Hong! Seeing the gray-robed old man, Xian Yinjuan called out in surprise. The gray-robed old man's eyes seemed to be filled with stars. He carefully sized up Xian Yinjuan, and his old face revealed an ecstatic expression. Eldest miss, it's you. It's really you. You've succeeded in your reincarnation? The gray-robed old man was so excited that his voice trembled. After many years of reincarnation, I was lucky to succeed, Xie Ninjuan said. Seeing the gray-robed old man, she felt much more relaxed. Thank God, thank God. The gray-robed old man sighed repeatedly. His tiger-like eyes were filled with tears. He looked at Xie Ninjuan dotingly. After a while he sighed and said, I wonder how second miss is doing. She's also nearby. I'll call her over, Xie Ninjuan said. Then he took out a voice transmission jade talisman and sent a message to Xian Yinqing. Second miss is also here? Did second miss also succeed in her reincarnation? The gray-robed old man became even more excited. She said it was a success, but it can't be said to be a complete success, Xie Ninjuan said. Can't be said to be a complete success? What's going on? The gray-robed old man asked. Her obsession in this life is too strong, so this life devoured her previous life. Her will is dominated by this life. She's no longer completely Tangqing. Xie Ninjuan sighed. Baidu search 81 Chinese network square meter. No advertising message. Chapter 2676. Hearing Xian Yinjuan's words, the gray-robed elder's expression changed. After a long while, he sighed. Reincarnation comes with countless risks. If you can't awaken, you will be trapped in reincarnation forever until you die. Second miss is lucky to be able to awaken. At least, she still retains the memories of her previous life. The gray-robed elder sighed. He had lived for a long time and had seen many people reincarnate. However, only 1 in 10,000 could awaken after reincarnation. Most of them were lost forever. There were many like Xian Yinqing. Their obsession in this life was too strong. In the end, the will of this life was the master. In this way, reincarnation could only be half successful. There were very few people like Xie Ninjuan who had completely awakened. Moreover, she has a family now. She has a son and a granddaughter. Then Xian Yinjuan explained the situation of Xian Yinqing and Lu Ming. The two of them chatted while waiting. Soon, a figure floated over. It was Xian Yinqing. You are... When Xian Yinqing saw the gray-robed elder, her delicate body trembled and her small face turned slightly pale. Hong Yang greets second miss. The gray-robed elder bowed to Xian Yinqing. Hong, Xian Yinqing whispered. She originally wanted to call him Uncle Hong. However, after pondering for a while, she changed her words. Senior, you don't have to be so polite. Now my name is Xian Yinqing. I am no longer Tangqing. You are the reincarnation of second Mrs. Soul. No matter which life's will is the master. In my heart, you are second miss. The gray-robed elder bowed. Senior, why have you come here? Xie Nianqing said. Xian Yinqing, we should leave. This is not a place for us to stay. Xian Yinjuan said. Leave? No, I will not leave. Xie Nianqing shook his head, his expression firm. Don't leave, Xie Nianqing. Our cultivation base increases too slowly in this place. Only by leaving can our cultivation base increase rapidly, Xie Nianjuan said. If my cultivation is slow to improve, then I'll slowly improve it. Xie Nianqing continued to shake his head. Xie Nianqing, are you going to abandon the Tang family? In your previous life, you were the second daughter of the Tang family, Tang Qing. Don't forget that they are in danger now. Xie Nianjuan's voice became heavier. Xie Nianqing frowned. There seemed to be a struggle between his brows, but he didn't say anything. Moreover, there are some things that are difficult to accomplish only if the two of us work together. Moreover, Father's whereabouts are unknown. Only by working together can we find him. Only by finding Father can we have hope. Do you understand? Xie Nianjuan pressed on, and his voice grew louder. The father she was referring to was naturally not Xie Qitian of the Xie family in the divine wilderness continent, but her father in her previous life. I am Xie Nianqing. The struggle between Xie Nianqing's brows deepened. In the end, he shouted loudly, as if he was trying to strengthen his conviction. I know that you are Xie Nianqing. I also know that you can't bear to leave Lu Ming, Lu Shenhuang, and Lu Qi. However, if you stay, you will only harm them. You should know very well how terrifying and powerful our enemies are. You are Tang Qing's reincarnation. Based on this fact, you will be discovered by them sooner or later. Qin Tian Starfield is located in a remote area, so it is still fine. However, with Lu Ming's talent, do you think he will stay in Qin Tian Starfield forever? With his talent, he will leave Qin Tian Starfield sooner or later. At that time, when he comes into contact with those people, your identity will be discovered sooner or later. You are the daughter of the taboo. They will not let you go. No, they let Lu Ming and the others go. No matter how talented Lu Ming is, he will not be able to fight back against those people. I believe you know this very well. Otherwise, why don't you dare to tell Lu Ming anything? You are afraid of implicating them. Xie Nianjuan stared into Xie Nianqing's eyes and said. Xie Nianqing's eyes became flustered. Xie Nianqing, I have said what I should say. You decide what to do. Today's parting doesn't mean that you will never meet again. If you find Father, you will meet again. Xie Nianjuan said. All right, I will go with you. After struggling for a while, Xie Nianqing finally spoke again. His eyes were resolute. A smile appeared on Xie Nianjuan's face. But I have to say goodbye to Lu Ming. Xie Nianqing said. I will go with you. Xie Nianjuan said. I will send you there. You just need to point out the location for me, the gray-robed elder said. Then he waved his hand. In an instant, he disappeared with Xie Nianqing and Xie Nianjuan. The next moment, they appeared in Lu Ming's courtyard. Lu Ming sensed Xie Nianqing and the others as soon as they appeared. Although he was cultivating, he had left a trace of his spiritual consciousness to observe the surroundings. Little Qing and Xie Nianjuan came to find me. Is there something wrong? Lu Ming's heart stirred. He ended his cultivation and walked out of the room. When Lu Ming walked out of the room, his eyes fell on the gray-robed elder. His pupils could not help but shrink. He never expected there to be a third person. Just now, he only sensed the aura of Xie Nianqing and Xie Nianjuan. He did not sense any aura of the gray-robed elder. It was as if he was a mass of air, unfathomable. That was Lu Ming's first impression of the gray-robed elder. Lu Ming, let me introduce you. This is Uncle Hong. Xie Nianjuan was the first to speak. Uncle Hong. Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. Xie Nianjuan called him so intimately and called him Uncle Hong. He must be someone she was very familiar with. This was the primitive universe. This elder naturally could not be from the Xie family of the divine wilderness continent in the primordial realm. Needless to say, this person was someone Xie Nianjuan knew in his previous life. Junior Lu Ming greets Senior. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, You are the husband of the second miss in this life. You are indeed a dragon among men. The gray-robed elder sized up Lu Ming as if he could see through all of Lu Ming's secrets. He continued, "All right, you guys continue chatting. I'll take my leave first." With that, the gray-robed elder's body disappeared. Lu Ming did not see how he disappeared. "Lu Ming!" Xian Yanqing walked to Lu Ming's side. He pondered for a moment and said, "I'm leaving." "What?" Lu Ming was shocked. His expression changed slightly and said, "Leaving? Little Qing, what do you mean?" "There are some things that I need to do. But don't worry, I'll be back soon." Xian Yanqing said, "Where are you going?" "I'll go with you." Lu Ming said. "Lu Ming, I'm afraid you can't help with this matter." Xie Ninjuan said. "What is it?" Lu Ming asked with a frown. "To tell you the truth, Xian Yanqing and I were both from the Tang family in our previous lives. However, the Tang family is facing a great crisis. My father is missing. Xian Yanqing and I need to work together to find my father. You are too weak to help at all. Moreover, after Xian Yanqing and I left, our cultivation could improve rapidly. It's only a matter of time before we recover the cultivation of our previous lives. In this place, we can't use our potential at all." Xian Yinjuan said, "Baidu search 81 Chinese Network O. No advertising message. Chapter 2677. Great danger? Then all the more I can't let Shaoqing go alone." Lu Ming's expression changed. "Lu Ming, don't worry. I'll be safe there." Xian Yanqing said. "That's right, Lu Ming. Let me tell you, Xian Yanqing will be in real danger if she stays by your side. She will be easily sensed by the enemy. At that time, not only will Xian Yanqing be in danger, but you, Lu Shenhuang, Lu Qi, and your family will also be in danger." Xie Ninjuan said. Lu Ming was speechless for a moment. He knew that Xian Yanqing had left for their safety. He wasn't afraid of himself, but he had to consider Lu Shenhuang and the others. Strength, it's still strength. Lu Ming couldn't help but clench his fists together. After coming to the primitive universe, he deeply felt that he was too weak. "Lu Ming, don't worry. Our separation is only temporary. We will meet again sooner or later," Xian Yanqing said while holding Lu Ming's hand. Lu Ming was silent and didn't say anything. At this moment, space flashed and the gray-robed elder's figure appeared again. "Lu Ming, this is for you." The gray-robed elder waved his hand and a jade talisman flew to Lu Ming. Lu Ming reached out and took it. "The location we're going to is in here. However, I've placed a seal on it. One day, when your cultivation surpasses that of a god king, you'll be able to break the seal. At that time, you'll be able to participate in everything," the gray-robed elder said. Surpass the god king realm. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming had never heard of the realm above the transcendence, God King. As far as he knew, the strongest person in the Qin Tian star field was the God King realm. He had never heard of anyone surpassing the God King realm. "Lu Ming, take care. We will meet again soon. I believe in you," Xie Nianqing whispered. Then, her red lips pressed onto Lu Ming's lips. After a long time, their lips parted. "Shaoqing, don't worry. It won't take me long to break through to the Divine King realm. I'll definitely reach that level. When that time comes, I'll come to find you," Lu Ming whispered in Xie Nianqing's ear. His voice was firm, and his gaze was incomparably resolute. He had seen all kinds of storms along the way. In the heaven realm, even someone as strong as the evil god tribe had been annihilated by him. Since Xie Nianqing had a great enemy in his previous life and was destined to fight, then he would trample the enemy and erase him from the face of time. "I believe in you, Lu Ming. Take care." Xie Nianqing also whispered and retreated. The gray-robed old man waved his hand. A wave of energy swept up Xie Nianqing and Xian Yinjuan. In an instant, they disappeared without a trace. "Shaoqing, wait for me." Looking at the empty courtyard, a low voice echoed in the courtyard. After a long time, Lu Ming took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then, he returned to his room to cultivate. He would definitely use the shortest time to break through to the Divine King realm. No matter how strong his opponent was, he would trample them. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan's departure didn't cause the slightest ripple in the Kongxian school. The Kongxian school had many disciples. Every year, there would be some disciples who went missing. Some were killed, some died while completing missions, and some died in dangerous places. To the major powers, this was a very normal thing. As for the gray-robed old man, the Kongxian school's divine king experts didn't sense his arrival at all. This made Lu Ming understand that the gray-robed old man's cultivation was unfathomable. In the blink of an eye, Xian Yinqing had been gone for a month. On this day, a group of people arrived at Huang Wu's courtyard. "Big brother, you're finally out." Huang Wu stood in front of a white-robed young man with a face full of smiles. This white-robed young man had a cold expression. He was Huang Wu's big brother, Huang Wen. I know everything about you," Huang Wen said. His voice revealed a murderous aura. "Big brother, you must avenge me. That Lu Ming, that bastard, dared to injure me and kill the people of the Floating Light sect. I will tear him into pieces." Huang Wu's face was ferocious. "Dead. He's dead for sure. However, it won't be easy to deal with him if he hides in the sect." Huang Wen frowned slightly. The Kongxian school had a rule that no killing was allowed in the sect. "Then what should we do? Are we going to let him roam free?" Huang Wu said unwillingly. "Roam free? How is that possible?" Huang Wen sneered and said, "Dongfang Han, you go and give that brat a life and death duel. Force him out of the sect, and we'll go and kill him." "Let Dongfang Han give him a life and death duel? How is that possible? That brat isn't stupid. Why would he agree?" Huang Wu said, "Killing was not allowed in the Kongxian school, but there was one exception. That was the life and death duel. However, there were conditions for the life and death duel. 2 outer sect elders had to sign the duel, and both sides had to agree. Only then would the life and death duel be effective. That way, he could step onto the life and death arena and fight to the death, and the sect would not pursue the matter. However, Dongfang Hao was an elite on the empty god list. Almost all the outer sect disciples of the Kongxian school were in the empty god realm. There were close to 100,000 of them. Therefore, someone made a list, which was the empty god list. It listed 120 of the strongest empty god realm experts and made a ranking. Everyone who was on the empty god list was a peak level 9 empty god realm expert. Their combat strength was extremely strong, and they were stronger than those of the same level. In the Kongxian school, there were more than 120 people who had reached level 9 empty god realm. There were even more than 10,000 of them. Many of them had reached level 9 empty god realm and were stuck at that level. It was difficult for them to advance further. There were so many people, but only 120 of them were listed. One could see how strong they were. Although Dongfang Hao was ranked at the bottom of the empty god list, his combat strength was much stronger than other level 9 empty god realm experts. Sending such an elite to give Lu Ming a life and death duel, it would be strange if Lu Ming would sign it. I naturally know that he won't dare to sign it. My aim is to pressure him and force him to leave the sect. At that time, killing him will be as easy as killing an ant." Huang Wen sneered. "Big brother is wise." Huang Wu was overjoyed. Then, a young man with short red hair beside Huang Wen left the place. This person was Dongfang Hao, the top expert in the outer sect. On this day, Lu Ming was cultivating when a voice came from outside the courtyard. "Lu Ming, get out here." The voice was like thunder, and it shook the courtyard. Lu Ming's face darkened. He immediately ended his cultivation and came out of the courtyard. At that moment, the other outer sect disciples around him were also alarmed. "Someone is looking for trouble with Lu Ming again. That is, Dongfang Hao. That is Dongfang Hao." "What? Dongfang Hao on the empty god list. He is the top expert in the outer sect of the Floating Light faction. Lu Ming is in trouble. Many people recognized Dongfang Hao and they were shocked. Baidu search 81 Chinese webvideo. No advertising message. Chapter 2678. Dongfang Hao empty god list. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. When he saw Dongfang Hao, he felt a sense of danger as if he was being stared at by a terrifying wild beast. Expert. Lu Ming immediately knew that this was an extremely terrifying expert. You're Lu Ming? You even dare to kill someone from the Floating Light sect. You've got guts. Dongfang Hao looked at Lu Ming coldly. Cold killing intent shrouded Lu Ming without concealing it. My guts are indeed not small, Lu Ming replied. Is that so? Since you've got guts, I'll give you a life and death duel now. Do you dare to accept it? A gilded invitation appeared in Dongfang Hao's hand. With a wave of his hand, the invitation flew towards Lu Ming at lightning speed. Lu Ming stretched out his hand to receive it and felt a powerful force surging towards him. His body swayed slightly to dissipate this force and steadily received the invitation in his hand. Lu Ming glanced at the invitation and saw 5 big words written on it. Life and Death Duel. On it, there were the signatures of 2 outer sect elders. In addition, there was Dongfang Hao's signature and his fingerprint. As long as Lu Ming stamped his fingerprint on it, it would mean that he had accepted the life and death duel. What? Dongfang Hao actually issued a life and death duel to Lu Ming? Did I hear wrongly? You didn't hear wrongly. That's it. It can't be. Dongfang Hao is someone on the empty god list. Lu Ming has just entered the sect not long ago. Dongfang Hao's words caused a commotion among the outer sect disciples. An expert on the empty god list actually issued a life and death duel to a disciple who had just entered the sect. This was rare even in history. Hee hee, you're really shameless. A level 9 empty god actually dares to challenge me. A disciple who has just entered the sect. Lu Ming sneered. Cut the crap. Weren't you very gutsy just now? Now you've become a coward? If you don't have the guts to accept it, then get out of the sect. Dongfang Hao scolded. Many people were disdainful. Dongfang Hao was an expert on the empty god list. Was it not normal that others did not dare to accept the challenge? However, no one dared to speak up. Lu Ming looked at the life and death duel book in his hand, seemingly deep in thought. Did you hear that? If you don't dare to accept the challenge, then get out of the sect. My Kongshan school will not keep such a coward. Dongfang Hao continued to shamelessly berate. Don't make a fuss here. I'll sign this agreement. Suddenly, Lu Ming's voice rang out. Then, a drop of blood seeped out from his finger. Next, he imprinted his own handprint on the life and death battle book mountain. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. Lu Ming actually signed it. Everyone was stunned. They never thought that Lu Ming would actually dare to sign this life and death duel agreement. Dongfang Hao himself was also stunned. He never thought that Lu Ming would sign the life and death duel agreement. His original intention was to force Lu Ming to leave the sect, and then Huang Wen would send someone to kill Lu Ming. Kid, the life and death duel agreement has a time limit. You must sign it within 3 years. Otherwise, you will be expelled from the sect. Do you understand? Dongfang Hao said coldly. 3 years? There's no need for 3 years. We will meet in the life and death duel 1 year later. Lu Ming said. 1 year. All right, 1 year later then. Dongfang Hao added a time limit on the agreement. The time was 1 year later. 1 year later, if Lu Ming did not dare to accept the challenge, he would be expelled from the Kongshan school. After writing the date, Dongfang Hao cast a cold glance at Lu Ming. He then soared into the air and left the place. Lu Ming actually signed it. He doesn't want his life anymore. I think he's deliberately stalling for time. Stalling for time? What can he do in 1 year? It will be over in the blink of an eye. He can't catch up with Dongfang Hao in 1 year. Could it be that he wants to take this opportunity to leave the Kongxian school? That's possible. Although he leaves the Kongxian school, at least he can keep his life. It's better than being killed by Dongfang Hao. Many people were discussing and thought that Lu Ming was deliberately stalling for time. In Huang Wu's courtyard. What? That kid actually signed it. Huang Wen, Huang Wu. And the others were surprised when they heard Dongfang Hao's news. They originally thought that Lu Ming would definitely not sign it. Huang Wen's purpose was to force Lu Ming to leave. Once Lu Ming signed it, his plan was disrupted. This kid must be stalling for time and then sneaking away, Huang Wu said. The others nodded. They also thought that Lu Ming had such a plan. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, 1 year later, he would definitely not be Dongfang Hao's opponent. That's a good plan. But if he slips away, he can forget about coming back, Huang Wen said coldly. Slipping away was equivalent to being expelled from the sect. Let's wait and see. If he doesn't leave in 1 year, we'll kill him, Huang Wen said. He then left and returned to the inner sect. 1 year's time was too short for a martial God realm cultivator. They didn't think that Lu Ming would be able to stir up any waves in 1 year's time. The news of Lu Ming signing Dongfang Hao's life and death quickly spread among the outer sect disciples and set off a storm. Some people thought that Lu Ming was courting death. But more people thought that Lu Ming was stalling for time and wanted to take the opportunity to slip away. Some people even secretly watched Lu Ming to see if Lu Ming was going to slip away. Lu Ming was too lazy to care about all this. He returned to his room and continued to cultivate. A few days later, Lu Ming opened his eyes. I can continue to break through, Lu Ming muttered. After a few months of cultivation, his foundation was very solid and he could continue to break through to the next realm. He still had many wood crystals that he had yet to refine. He took out a wood crystal and swallowed it before he started to cultivate. He cultivated the sovereign divine force. Every time he broke through to the next realm, he would need a shocking amount of resources. However, Lu Ming had not used the wood crystals that he had obtained from the abyss and the wood crystals that he had obtained from killing plants. It was enough for him to break through. One by one, the wood crystals were refined rapidly. Lu Ming's cultivation level was also increasing rapidly. He was rapidly approaching the 3rd level of the Void God Realm. Half a month later, when Lu Ming had refined the last wood crystal, his cultivation level had successfully broken through to level 3 Empty God Realm. Level 3 Empty God Realm is still not enough to deal with Dongfang Hao, Lu Ming muttered. When Lu Ming was at level 2 Empty God Realm, he could easily defeat level 7 Empty God Realm experts, such as the young man in luxurious clothes. At that time, his combat strength was equivalent to a level 8 Empty God Realm Supreme Talent who possessed royal grade divine force. Now that his cultivation level had broken through to level 3 Empty God Realm, he could theoretically fight against a level 9 Empty God Realm expert if he gave it his all. However, Lu Ming knew that if he really fought against a level 9 Empty God Realm expert, he would most likely not be a match for him. This was because a level 9 Empty God Realm expert could already use divine skills. There was a huge gap between them and a level 8 Empty God Realm expert. Once a divine skill was used, the combat strength would be shocking. Moreover, Dongfang Hao was on the Empty God list. His strength must be even more terrifying. Lu Ming would most likely not be a match for him. Even if he activated the fight formula to double his combat strength, he would still not be a match for Dongfang Hao. Lu Ming still needed to continue to break through to be able to fight against Dongfang Hao. Baidu searching 81 Chinese network. No advertising message.